ahead, bringing artificial intelligence, coming out with new regulatory paradigms that are making accelerated healthcare discoveries and deliveries happen. So insofar as we want to learn from the best and be humble about it, it's important to also keep these numbers in mind, right? So lots of challenges, but lots of opportunities. So what I'm going to do is my esteemed fellow co-anchorer, I'm going to ask Professor Sashidhara to give opening comments, after which we'll go through each of our panelists to spend 2 to 3 minutes to speak about the topic, and then we'll come to a round of questions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anand. Thanks again to Satya and BFI for providing this opportunity here. Quickly, definitely we are not going to discuss the problems. There's no laundry list of problems. There is definitely a long list, but we can still do much, much better. And I'm sure we are already, in that kind of a mode in the country. 2025 started with a big bang. In variety of different ways, you can call it as big bang. With variety, the whole global geopolitical situation is changed because of one person and variety of different other issues that are coming up. But in context of science and technology, the most important thing is what started in the late 23 and early 24, and which actually took off really well, is artificial intelligence, right? And in that context, and the way biotechnology and biomedical research and also agriculture, particularly in the context of climate resilient agriculture, how it is going forward in the world, and where we are, and how we scientific community, they are equivalent to top 5% of anywhere in the world. I don't think there's any distinguishing. We may be working low resource setting conditions, but in terms of quality, I don't think there is any compromise. So given this, what is that we need to do to capitalize on what's happening in the world in 2025? We already completed 1/4 century of the 21st century. And obviously, this remaining, in Indian context, we are moving from 75 to 100 years of independence, and the world is also moving to the next second quarter of this century. And with the AI and with CRISPR-Cas9 in the context of biomedical research, I guess there's a big opportunity here. Definitely, we don't need to worry about China. We have done whatever we could do at low resource settings, but with big philanthropy coming in, thanks to BFI and many other young philanthropists in the country, I think we can now move much faster at an accelerated pace and also expand our community. So in that context, perhaps what we can do is we can actually ask questions to our panelists related to what is that we need to do today to reach what is that envisaged for 2047.
Brilliant. Did you notice twice or thrice he said about, despite low resource setting, we are doing innovation. There are 8.5 billion people on this planet. Western innovation is likely to touch 1.5 billion. The remaining 7 billion in the planet can potentially benefit from solutions that come from India, contextual innovation. So thank you for that. So I'm going to request our panelists to spend a couple of minutes to give their opening thoughts and comments about the topic. Over to you, Professor.
So I think, first of all, pleasure, Satya, to be called here. And I think what I'm going to start with is a very simple statement Dr. Mashelkar used to make: to deliver more value for less money to more people, right? And to combine that with something that Mr. Nailwal said yesterday. This is an aspirational India. We are no longer simply trying to deliver the basic at a lower cost for all people. We are actually trying to create first in the world products. And AI is going to be such a transformative part of it. Because in many ways, the tools it creates, especially via current open source, via even publicly available, at least temporarily free, are actually there for everyone. And these things can be absolutely transformational. But the dividend of India that we say are young people can also become a burden very, very fast if we fail to do it. So health innovation in India should no longer only try to look at trying to provide for more people, creating similar systems as in the West at a lower price. We absolutely need to create a sector for innovation, trying to answer problems that are high value anywhere in the world. Not only high value to us because we have a specific need, that's very important as well, but we must truly be aspirational. And many of the tools that are required to do this are actually now available at the Indian research ecosystem. I would actually say that many of our institutions now have facilities comparable to the world. We can strengthen the ecosystem further. What we really need is for us to understand the world has changed and for us to change accordingly. I'll stop here for now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And Dr. Malathi, over to you, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Anand, and also thanks, Shashidhara. Thanks, BFI. So, the topic really, I'm an IP specialist. Been a scientist, of course, and now I'm an IP specialist. And when I see the IP in India versus the other countries, one of the things is the research funding is low in India as compared to, let's say, China, Europe, Korea. But if I look at South Korea, they're minuscule population, but you take any subject, whether it's electronics, whether it's AI, whether it's cosmetics, or whether it is biology, and they're changing the scenario. So if I'm not even thinking China, China is way ahead. But can we now at least catch up with these countries like South Korea? If you take Samsung, we always thought was an electronics player. They came, and we buy all Samsung products, fridge, TV, air conditioners. But people don't know, when I did this report, there is a lot of things that Samsung is doing in the biotech field, which is antibodies, antibody engineering, biosimilars, CRISPR, name it, CAR-T, and they are into every area. And so when people have realized, yes, biotech is the next revolution, and they can't just stay in only into electronics and so on, I think this is a lesson even for industrialists and other labs, that how do we quickly move from where we are to what it is. So I think this, like what Vijay Chandru said, it is the internet age. It is the AI age. Can we now put all these in AI and see what does India need? What 4 solutions we need? If we get those 4 solutions that we need to do this, I think we should be able to leapfrog. So what did China do? They copied a lot of these seminal work being done abroad, whether it is AI, whether it is semiconductors, whether it is electronics. Can we now quickly move with low resources, but then scientists in R&D labs or government, university must work with the industry or must work with what are the unmet needs. And a lot of people in the medical field, with their doctors, they really don't know what is patenting. And also our patent system is not very friendly because method of treatment will not you give patents for, or repurposing of a drug. So we can do those type of work, repurposing of a known drug, which are already safe and got the regulatory approvals. Can they be used for certain indications that India can do? But if you don't give the IP for that, then why is anybody going to work in that area? You need some incentives. And if you do it, but I think, okay, India doesn't allow repurpose, and you can license it to other countries and see that. So I think we need to now, is the age with internet, AI, can we now leapfrog and go to the next level?
Brilliant. We heard both the speakers here talking about leapfrogging with AI, and obviously we need very strong IP infrastructures. I'm going to request my friend Deepanvita, who pretty much founded incubation in biotech in this country, to share her thoughts broadly on the topic.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Shashidhara. Thank you, BFI, especially Satya, for inviting me to this August gathering today. I was very inspired by today's morning session. Everyone, each speaker spoke from their experience and their heart to say how we can make a difference for India, in India. Because for India, not outside India, for India, in India, it's like by the people, for the people. And I would add with the people. How do we reduce inequity? How do we increase access with all the kinds of new technologies that we want to bring in? If we cannot reduce inequity, not only in equality, in equity, in each field, and without healthcare equity, we won't have a generation which can actually leapfrog, because we will not be able to have the brain power to do it. So reducing malnutrition, reducing all these things, because healthcare access and equity come kind of together. How do we look at technologies? That's why I thought it was very important when we looked at the awards, there was a Public Health Innovation Award. And I think it's extremely important to look at public health, maternal and child health. Otherwise, we will all be talking about this 10 years later, again sitting in the same kind of a room, discussing why did we not make it. We have to build our next generation. Our next generation are the children that we have to just not feed nutritious food, feed proper health, healthy food, and proper health access. If we can do it through our technologies, through the leapfrogging of technologies, bringing in newer technology, reimagining primary health care, reimagining healthcare, I'll wait for that time. I'm waiting for it. Thank you.
Reimagining primary healthcare. I mean, India can never become a developed country in the world, even if our GDP keeps rising, if we don't invest in health and we don't have a healthy population. The demographic dividend that Professor Sasidhara spoke about will just fall off if we don't have a healthy population. So it's so important, and public health is where it all starts. Thank you. Professor Shavik, love to hear from you, please.
Thank you, BFI team, to give us opportunity to discuss one of the important, point, at least at this moment, which is, whole country is thinking like how to come out with innovation. So I'm a basic scientist by training, at least in like up to 2014, 15, I used to practice as a basic scientist, and later on I have transformed myself how we can use our basic science knowledge to come out with some kind of innovation. So having said that, being a basic scientist, I feel that one of the gap which we see that, in our academic sector at least, is that initially, unless until we are not involved in invention, that will not lead us to innovation. And how I do see invention, as again a researcher, invention, you can imagine a black box. In one end, you can put lot of amount of money. You do not know what is going to come out, okay? And whatever is coming out from that black box of invention can be put back to innovation black box, and something will come out as a money, okay? Now, these two things are not often connected in academic sector. And the first box, invention box, can be led by individual scientist, very basic questions like CRISPR-Cas we are discussing, okay, when in 2010-11, scientists from Broad Institute or Berkeley Institute, they are just looking for how bacterial immunology works, a basic science, okay? Then, they have come out with a observation that can be repurposed for something else. Then, innovation started using this invention. So unless until if we do not connect these two box well enough with lot of cross-disciplinary expertise, we will be always lagging behind. So what I mean that cross-connectivity between disciplinary also is mean that, chemist, biologist, and engineers. Till now, I feel that lot of clinical knowledge we get input to come out innovation, but still engineering knowledge is lacking, at least in academic sector. So unless until if we do not collect, scientists from multidisciplinary ways, we always will be lacking behind to come out, new technology and new, solutions for healthcare. Having said that, again, I will emphasize that this is the best time because, after COVID, we have understood the value of healthcare, health technologies, and that at least are helping us to bring people closer, like cross-disciplinary people. And I look forward to have much more such kind of collaboration in near future, which will help us to give more innovative, solutions for our problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Multidisciplinary approach required more than ever. And COVID clearly taught the whole world that without health, we don't have a society. Thank you for those comments. Last but not least, Dr. Ashish, your comments,
Thank
opening
you,
comments,
Anand.
please.
Thank you, Shashi. Thanks, BFI team and Satya particularly. I think in the AI biotech space, there's a lot of happening as I see it. First and foremost, the infrastructure for AI is going to grow in this country. High-end compute data centers are booming right now as I see it. Biotech, industry, academic, a lot of expertise already exists. And there are many of those very India-specific problems that absolutely need to be solved. And coming back to, so we have all these three dimensions, and coming back to what Anurag said, more for less for more, the Mashelkar magic formula. How do we do this in India with research investments being only 0.65, 0.7%, right? So we have on the one side a lot of infrastructure, a lot of expertise existing. On the other side, the R&D investments are less. And on the third side, a lot of problems that need to be solved at the lowest economic strata. And I think perhaps a smart way of doing this is to leverage existing ecosystem. And going back to what Professor Chandru said, convergence, leveraging the ecosystem to achieve convergence. So to get to a product, as he said very nicely in the morning, you need AI, you need material science, you need chemistry, you need semiconductor, you need electronics, you need all of those need to be to come together to deliver a high-end, first-to-the-world product. All of these exist in silos. And instead of building them in one institute or two places, can we be smart enough to leverage the existing ecosystem? And that, I think, is perhaps a way to achieve a lot more from a lot less for a lot of people, delivering a lot of impact. So I think we need to come up with innovative formulae, innovative structures to leverage existing ecosystem and achieve that convergence. That's perhaps how I feel.
So leveraging existing ecosystems, pulling them together to enable convergence. You know what this reminds me when I hear this August group speaking? I came from a chip design background, right? So when voice, data and video came together, that changed the world. I see that happening now when biology, biochemistry, molecular biology, AI is all coming together. This is almost like that in terms of the disruption and the opportunity it's going to create. So thank you for the opening comments. Over to you, Professor Sashidhara.
Great. I think the first round of thoughts from our panelists has been very encouraging, very positive, and outlook and also some kind of a solutions are emerging. So I'll start a question to Anurag. We spoke about interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, Shovik also mentioned, and we also talked about demographic dividend. If innovation is an emergent property of large ecosystem connecting to each other, and how do we achieve the increase of the size of our community, which is important. The scale of the community is still very small. And how to expand that community size at an accelerated manner where they'll have the foundational knowledge, at the same time advanced technical skills, and also some amount of interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity. I understand that an individual doesn't have to be interdisciplinary, but as a project, multiple people coming from different disciplines need to work, then they need to understand each other's language. How do we achieve? Ashoka is a good example where I'm sure you must be experimenting on this.
So I'll come to Ashoka in a few minutes. When I just caught the eye of Dr. Ram Gopal Rao, then I saw Shauvik speak about invention and convergence. One of the challenges in putting anything together is ultimately it must start from people. And whatever formula has not worked so far is unlikely to work if you carry it further into the future. So at Ashoka, what was decided was that rather than having very strict boundaries between areas, the future of, let's say, health AI, will it be by biologists who learn AI tools? Will it be by AI people who learn biology? How does it matter? As long as you create the ecosystem that the IITs have tried to do, and I know BITS is currently also trying to do, many other ecosystems, people can seamlessly from education onwards pick courses and areas so that when they come out are not defined by a single discipline. Instead, they cut across the variety of knowledges they would need. Now, why is this important? You could say, why can't we take a bunch of medical doctors and a bunch of engineers, put them together and ask them to make a solution? It doesn't work that way because they don't speak the same language. If they don't speak the same language, they're unable to correct each other. They simply nod their head when the other person is speaking. And until you create people who speak multiple languages, you're not going to translate anything at all. And that, I think, is something that the new education policy is very well designed to do. Now, the trouble is the conventional entrenched ecosystem would have to change.
Yeah.
And much of that ecosystem is on the public side. And the hardest thing in a public ecosystem to do is to bring the change. So ultimately, I think the private system must come in. BFI was built on private money. Ashoka is a philanthropic university leveraging private money. Even when we speak of other countries investing X number of percentages in research and R&D, the amount of money that comes from the government is typically below 2%. The rest comes from the private sector. India at 0.7, 0.8 is behind, but not that far behind. The private sector at 0.1, 0.2 is well behind the global average. So I think both private money for societal benefit, that because of CSR we have, and private money for money benefit. And I'll make this last point before I end. Even if you were to look at the monetary benefit value chain, it used to be a straight line. A certain amount comes from the idea, a certain amount comes from the manufacturing, a certain amount comes from the sale and distribution. China flattened the middle. There is almost no money left in simple manufacturing if you don't have the idea. So we must invest in a generation of people with new ideas because we actually cannot rely upon becoming a manufacturing nation. We must do it to provide the jobs, but we can't use it to become a rich nation. Over.
Great. So just, Anand, I think it's a fantastic point, the last point that you mentioned, that all of them should also become thinkers rather than simply, the university should not become manufacturing machines of graduates. So one point I just wanted to highlight in the education system, which we need to change. I think it starts from the faculty orientation and faculty development program, because they are the ones who are coming from the past to tell our today's students what they need to do in the future, right? So I know the faculty from the past has to be at least know what is in the present situation, even if they cannot foresee the future. Some of you, of course, have a good foresightness to see the future. People like Vijay Chandru actually engineer the future. So perhaps we need to set up these kind of interaction with existing faculty. Otherwise, we cannot scale it up. Yeah.
Thank you. Just before I go to Deepanvita for a question, ladies and gentlemen, a point that Anurag made, right? As a country, we spend so little on R&D, particularly on the private side. It's next to impossible, and it's so rare to see an organization like BFI spending 1,600 crores on R&D in our country. I think we need to give a huge round of applause and appreciate that. Let's not take it for granted. And organizations like BFI or Ignite are seeding the foundation for the next generation Wellcome Trust, and Bill and Melinda Gates to come from here. Maybe the Ambanis and Adanis will write billions of dollars after they see such important steps. Coming to you, Deepanvita, as someone who's a founding mother of incubation in health tech, etc. I'm going to pose you a question and say the world is changing and changing dramatically. There are many incubators represented in this audience. If you have to write, or you get the opportunity to write the blueprint for 2.0, how will Indian incubators and accelerators need to look at to keep up with the times?
Great question, Anand. I think there are about 1,000 incubators in the country. Take maybe a little less, little more, because it's just not the central government funded incubators. There are line ministry, of course, funded, and also state government funded incubators, private incubators. Out of which BIRAC probably has funded about 100 incubators, so life sciences incubators, 100, but that's plus because there are a number of incubators, tech agnostic ones, sector agnostic incubators that look at healthcare. So I would guess about 400 incubators in this country are looking at healthcare, not biotech, but healthcare in various formats. So there are huge number of enablers in the sector, in the ecosystem today. So how do you distinguish what value you are adding? And the global ecosystem, global startup ecosystem report that came out very recently last week, it says that ecosystem value globally is declining. What value an ecosystem players can add is globally declining because of AI. So startups today have tremendous access to technology, and in this kind of a scenario, I think incubators have to reimagine themselves, redeploy its capabilities, retrain themselves in order to be relevant. Otherwise, we will not be relevant. If I ask Satya today, BFI is a great enabler. Should incubators look at becoming something like BFI kind of work? But they may not have the funding available, because what is hugely constraining of all our small incubators is funding. Do we need, so is there a consolidation hub and spoke model of incubation where budgets can be pulled and work together better? Because if we cannot add value to startups, to the ecosystem, to innovators, including academic innovators, I feel will become irrelevant, and it will be finally either seed funding or venture funding or organizations like BFI that would take the place of incubators. You know, 3 things that incubators can, if I can take another minute, Anand. One is to look seriously at infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure is needed tomorrow? If I look at TCS, what is happening today, 12,000 mid-senior level people have already, they lost their jobs, have been asked to leave. Is that a signal for our industry or not? Have we asked ourselves that question? If this is happening with TCS, all IT, ITS industry would follow that. I was looking at the Tata Automotive Financial CIO, Vipin Gupta. He is saying 20 engineers in Pune, 20 automotive engineers, what they can do in 6 months, 3 AI agents can do in 2 days. Where are we? So I think incubators have to look at training people. I think training and upskilling should become a role that incubators have to take up. Because who's going to do it? Can academic institutions do it? They have their own limitations. I think that this is the enablement of the ecosystem that's needed. I have other points to say, but we'll take a round and I'll come back again if I get a chance.
Great.
Thank you.
So you want to add something, Anurag? Go ahead.
I want to add a paper that I think everybody in the room should read. Just look at it. It's called the Virtual Lab. It's from the Chan Zuckerberg at Stanford. The task given to them was to create a brand new novel nanobody to new variants of SARS-CoV-2. What they basically did is a prompt engineered API versions using OpenAI, AI principal investigator, AI structural biologist, AI immunologist, and the innovation was an AI critic. Basically, all that was given to the AI PI was the task. PI knew how to distribute the task, critic knew how to criticize everyone. At the end, when it went round and round, 5 mutations, all novel, were proposed. They were then humanly synthesized and tested. 2 of the 5 worked in neutralizing JN.1. So this disruption is coming.
It's coming.
If any of your work can be completely standardized, AI can in theory replace you. There is a new company, I believe, Leela AI by George Church, raised $300 million in March. Everything, including the last part, that in my previous example was done by humans. The synthesis is robotic, and the testing of the compounds is also robotic. So it's a complete loop with data production also being non-human and the hypothesis generation also being non-human. So this is coming. So we should be able to leverage it. I just thought I'd
add
quickly.
this to Anurag's, what Anurag said, if we can't do it fast, we don't need to do it. Because the amount of money in 1 week an AI company is raising is amazing. You have to look at the data and see we can't look at grant giving in 6 months. If we can't do it, like what BFI said, in 2 weeks, I think we have to look at a different way of doing things.
Yeah, I have a slightly different, with what that, it's not that if we don't do it now, we will not be able to do it tomorrow because others would have, because solutions had to come very diverse, very customized solutions is what we are looking for. 1.5 billion people of such genetic diversity and geoclimatic diversity and nutrition diversity is very likely that any of the solutions that people are thinking in the West will not be useful. We have to think for ourselves. Our own public health data need to be used to design some of these solutions. Anyway, taking from what you mentioned, the incubator 2.0, how it to be done, net hub and spoke model, whatever. Shovik, the question here is, like elsewhere in the world, India too, most of the first part of the research in biomedical is done in government institutions. It's public funded research. Not necessarily government research, public funded research. And thankfully now, even with the TRL 0 level also is being funded by philanthropy. But in Indian context, is largely government institutions, unlike in other countries, right? But it's not only public funded, it's also in government institutions. And if you want to expand our innovation landscape, have hundreds of more incubators, we need to ensure that the existing resources to be better utilized, which is all in the government institution. So what do you think a government policy will change this? Rather than setting up a standalone incubators, whether 100 or 200, 1,000, I don't know whether it's really there. Let's say 100, but I can only say 5, I can only remember 5 names at any given time of the day. So in that context, what is that we need to do to that every lab, 50% of the resources can be used by incubators or industry relationship or some industry-oriented research or sponsored research?
Thanks, yes. So you are basically looking forward, something, kind of policy by the government. So to my, understanding or my opinion is that policy is there, okay? Policy in the sense of how to work with incubators or how to work with industry from a government institute, everything is there, okay? What is lacking is the, first, what Deepanita was talking about, how fast we can take a decision, okay? That is absolutely absent in government sector, okay? And if we make this kind of, decision much faster, the way it has to be, then I don't think there is a lack of any policies, because, there is a policy how to set up, or, tie up with industry by all government institute, being CSR, one of the earliest, say, a kind of organization who used to work with industry. There are, a lot of CSR institute, they have started incubator center. The second problem which I see is that again, these are fragmented. Can I connect them? In a very, very layman terms, if I can give you kind of understanding is that, everybody, we used to burn up paper using lens. And we used to use the convex lens, concave lens, not the convex lens. So people like organization like BFI can serve like a convex lens, collecting resources and concentrate to a particular areas or problem which we can solve it. This connection or connecting these dots are missing. So first, how we can work and how we can connect dots and how we can concentrate the resources for a particular areas or particular problem. If we can solve these three problems, I think we will deliver much better way. I think so.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Coming to you, Malathi, there's so much stuff happening now, right? We hear about CRISPR, Cas9, Cas12, mRNA technologies, AI-based innovation. This has never happened before, at least not in my 30 plus years of working, right? So many changes, so many new technologies. I may be stepping on somebody's IP, etc. In your opinion, how do you think India is viewing the IP frameworks around this rapidly changing tech bio environment? Not biotech, but tech bio environment. And that's part A. Part B is, how do we gear up for it even? It'll be a great education for us if you can give a synopsis. How do we gear up for this? Because we hear our fellow panelists talking about how AI is starting from everything from target identification to synthesizing compounds. So I think it's going to be a very, very complex area to work in. So would love to hear your thoughts.
I think, we all can say, we can't move that fast, so let's give up. I agree with what Professor Shashidhara is saying is that I think we should use this as an opportunity to use AI to come up with these things, because now it's open to everybody. What an American or a Chinese can do, we can also do. Why are we not doing? So let me give you said about molecule, correct? I now know receptors, let's say, CD20 receptor or PCSK9 for cholesterol. Why are we still dependent on innovator antibodies? It's a little more complex issue, but now when I know that this is the target, PCSK9 for cholesterol or CD20, I will use AI to come up and create an antibody on my lab system. And then, like he said, it is happening. It is happening. So what did China do? Okay, Keytruda, I will make a better product than Keytruda. I think today we need to just jump now, leapfrog, jump, whatever it is, and use the AI, internet, and start working to now create those new molecules in the lab, which can be done. It can be done for small molecules much faster than for antibodies. But I think for antibodies also I've just written a paper some time back that how I can create antibody. If I now want to go to lab, I will use only AI. And I will be able to create antibodies which are the fastest selling drugs today. Anti-cancer drug, any of those immunotherapy drugs, and so on. I think it is possible. I think this is my policy change. Because what happens in China, they decide, Keytruda is a very important drug. Can we imitate it? Can we make newer molecules, not copycat, newer molecules and take on the world? If it is semaglutide, can I have drugs for GLP? If it is any other CAR-T technology, can we do it? So I'm thinking that this is the best time for all those incubators, startups, to now use AI to design. So we need good AI agents. You need to think and give the right prompt to give the right answer, to get the right answer. And so I think in diagnostics, in all healthcare, and not only that, in IP even our patent officers have to change, take on AI. Just like she said, 12,000, many of the IPs which were doing search have all closed down. Go to Perplexity, go to ChatGPT. I don't need anything more. So I think we all have to do, because now I think we're on a level playing field. We cannot be crying, oh, I don't have. You have it there. Use DeepSeek, use ChatGPT, and try to, just go to the next level. If we don't do it, I think we'll be left out.
Thank you, thank you. So we have most discussed so many aspects of this whole pipeline. We started with how to scale up our community size, more innovators, how to incubate those innovations, and then how to facilitate use of the existing resources so that we can do more from less, and also IP protection and everything. The last mile connection is another big mystery in Indian context and a big gap. So I want to sort of throw this question to Ashish. You also work with big industries, Reliance, and also extensively at CSR Labs. So how to take it to whatever the proof of concept, prototype, the product to the next level where it goes to larger industry and standardize the whole process of manufacturing and take it to the large scale and at low cost so that it will reach the end beneficiaries with affordability and accessibility so that there is equity in the society for this. In Indian context, that's very important. So we still have not reached that seamlessly that any product will, go this pipeline and will reach the larger industry. That lack of confidence in that one also sort of suppresses innovation very often, because no one wants to get into this. So what I will do for 3 years, my startup will end up continuously being a startup. Then how to go to the next level?
Yeah, thank you, Shashi. Very important question. And as a process engineer, chemical engineer, process engineer, and having worked with a large number of pharma companies, for instance, at NCL, this is what we call the valley of death. We may use the best of AI tools available to, innovate a molecule, or we may want to use an innovator molecule. Ultimately, we want to take it to the masses, and that needs manufacturing. So if you have the innovation done in academia or in a research lab such as ours, to translate that into large-scale manufacturing is a jump in TRL levels. At labs like ours, or perhaps now universities, you are spanning TRL levels of 2 to 4. What the industry wants more often is TRL 8, 9 technologies. And this is precisely the valley of death that today we do not have very good answers to in India. There is a huge jump in terms of financial risks, market risks, technology risks that need to be taken when you take a process for making any of these molecules from lab scale to an industrially manufacturable scale. There are all of these risks involved. The industry today in India doesn't want to take those risks. The pharma is a little bit of an exception, but still most of the pharma industries, and especially the big, not the big ones, but there are a large number of companies that do intermediates. They are smaller companies, anywhere from 100 crore to 7,000, 8,000 crore companies. They do not have the financial wherewithal to take that risk. The financial risk, the technology risks. The academics are unable to cross that barrier, okay, for various reasons, right? And therefore, how do we bridge this valley of death, to me, is a question that needs to be answered immediately now. Okay? I believe we need a new set of institutions who can bridge this gap. And there are great models that are available outside India. Fraunhofer is a great example. The Catapult system in the UK is a great example. And these institutes are created with the sole purpose of bridging the valley of death. They are not innovators. They are not manufacturers. They are there to bridge this valley of death. So very sharp focus, extremely well-defined IP laws, IP rules that they follow, very transparent rules for transfers of technology. That gives huge confidence to manufacturers and to academics that no IP laws will be, nobody will steal your IP, and those sort of doubts that people have. So I believe in India we need to look at these models and think of creating new systems, new entities, which will do this very, very important task of taking innovations from academia, taking them to a scale where industry will say, now I have great confidence in this technology and I will take it from here on. I think that's, to me, is a very, very important question that needs to be answered.
Thanks. I think it's a very important point that it has to be done today, because all the discussion in the last couple of years, globally and particularly in the context, everything has to be accelerated. If we are accelerating the whole innovation, we're accelerating the product development, design and development, then how will it reach the people? That's where, this has to happen. If we are let's say in a couple of years, 100 products are ready to be, going to the market, then where are we? That's a very important point. You want to add something, Anurag?
Satya, do we have time for audience for a question? Because I know I was asked to. 2 minutes, 2 questions. Before we go to 2 questions, maximum 5 minutes. Right. So before we open it up to you guys, I just want to have our fellow panelists maybe make one quick last statement, put them on a hot seat to say if you have one thing to say, suggest to some ministry or minister or department, what would that be? Because Satya and their team are making notes, right, Satya? We're going to make this into an app note and give it to the government so we don't lose this opportunity of this great brain power. So we're just going to go through quickly to hear from them one last comment, suggestion, and then open it up for question. Over to you, Anurag.
I think ease of doing research already recognized as a problem, and I think we're all looking for solutions.
Ease of doing research. Thank you.
Yeah,
Malti.
I think we need reform in the IP policy and IP sector, but one of the biggest deterrent is the Biodiversity Act. And if the biotech has to go and do ease of doing business, the Biological Diversity Act has to be amended.
National Biodiversity Act is dinosaurial, absolutely needs amendment. Thank you. Dipanvita.
I think it's time, what Professor Ashish Lele said, I think we need institutions that understand scale and can build scale. So actually we are, as IKP, our 2.0 is actually to morph into an ecosystem player that scales. And I think whoever can do it will survive and will do well. I think scale is the idea.
Scale is the idea, and that echoes what Professor Sasidhara said, right? If you're talking about accelerating innovation, we need to also accelerate how institutions are behaving and are moving. Thank you very much. Shavik.
Yeah, with few words, I will, suggest that keeping science and scientists outside of bureaucracy.
Wow, interesting. Keep science and scientists out of? I think that we...
So it's called ease of doing science.
Oh, ease of doing science. Thank you. Ashish, last word, my friend.
The next plenary.
Bridge the valley of death, create new institutes, new entities with very, very sharp focus to bridge that valley of death. Otherwise, innovations will stay in the labs and they will the industry will keep licensing from outside.
One very quick one. Every time I hear the valley of death, I think of the charge of the light brigade. So create the light brigade.
Anand, I also want to add my point here. So in the news, everybody talking about SIR these days. Don't worry about what is SIR in the news. But, in CSR or DST has what's called SSR, Scientist Social Responsibility, right? So I think we should introduce what's called SIR, that directly or indirectly, each scientist in the country, publicly funded particular ones, should have at least some work towards helping one innovator. right? Directly or indirectly. I think SIR is what we should introduce.
Love it. Guys, we have time for one or two quick questions. Please be very specific about the question. No opinions, please. Question, and if you have any one particular person you want to. Can someone help us with the floor mics, please? Oh, there is? Okay.
Here, yeah. My name is Pavandar. This is for Malathi ma'am. So given that AI can predict novelty, non-obviousness, and application, is there a room for human-centric patent filing in future?
Wow. Tough question.
Very difficult to answer because
Very
it will
amazing
it will change the whole scenario, I think, of, obviousness, novelty, and how we go about the IP scenario.
Anyone can join in. That's a great question. No easy answers, as Malathi said.
I'll give you one very quick example using Keytruda as the base. So Keytruda is an antibody to PD-1, PD-L1. Recently, Q Biopharma got the bright idea, what if you tag interleukin-2, which stimulates cells along with Keytruda, identifying the cells. That particular combination with that particular spacing, I would still call it human-centric, because it wasn't about antibody design. It was just rethinking the problem that Keytruda was causing. So that's the way I would say it.
I think we have time for, I've been told we have time for one more. Please be specific.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Gentlemen.
Hello.
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Madhu Madhusudara from Hyderabad. The question is on, there is a big elephant in the room. There are many actually. There is one I'm talking about is, most of the money government spends on the institutes, and the institutes they don't have liberty to do what they want to do. Like all of us appreciate what happened in 91, the lack of control, less control by the government actually helped so many things to happen. I do not know why ICMR or CSR or DST or DBT cannot
Good point. I think we should take the freedom ourselves.
Okay, guys, listen, I'm really out of time. Please give it up to this amazing group of panelists. And it's my honor to be with them. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you to our moderators and panelists. And I would like to invite here on stage Abhishek Kumar, who's representing Muse Wearables, to be presenting this innovation from Muse Wearables, Ring One, to our speakers and to our moderators. So ladies and gentlemen, this is an indigenous innovation coming from Muse Wearables, a deep tech startup which was founded in 2016 by a team of IIT Madras alumni with a passion for blending everyday design with cutting-edge health technology. The product which is being presented is Ring One. This is world's first smart ring that combines continuous health tracking, including ECG, heart rate, SpO2, and temperature, with contactless payments and security features. So this way, BFI is also promoting and encouraging the young minds, the innovators, the startups, as they're presenting their indigenous products to the panelists and to our moderators. We'll have a group photograph of our panelists. Why don't you also join us for this? Okay. Can I request our panelists to be there for the group photograph, and then we'll close the session. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be after this moving straight into the next plenary talk. This is on nurturing the next frontier, building translational research capacity in Indian academia. empowering our academic institutions to turn discoveries into real-world impact. And that session is going to be focusing on building more robust translation research capacity and bridging the gap between lab innovations and societal benefit, which we have been speaking, and that's the very idea and thought with which BFI was also created. To introduce the speaker, our plenary talk speaker, I would like to once again call upon here on stage Dr. Satya.
Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Ramgopal Rao, how do I even mention such a stalwart in few minutes? If in India we have one academician who can bridge deep science, policy, thought leadership, transformation of academic institutes, transformation of startups, has done startups himself, then it's him. Let me just mention his life journey in 1 minute, which is very difficult. Growing up in Andhra Pradesh, went to do PhD in Germany, in University of Bunzer, came back, was at IIT Bombay for many years as a Pillai Chair, as well as P.K. Kelkar Chair, a Professor of Nanotechnology. Then became the director of IIT Delhi, and we saw the transformation. I was a witness of his time in IIT Delhi. I was at that time in BIRAC. Actually, I should mention that I was a bit of a funder for his startup as well during his time in IIT Bombay while I was at BIRAC. And then he is now currently the Group Vice Chancellor of BITS Pilani. And if you follow him, I think there's a high likelihood that you follow him on LinkedIn, you will see what kind of transformation he's bringing to an old institution, again, to BITS Pilani, which has now grown to 6 campuses. Pilani, the original campus, Goa, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Dubai. And one more is coming up. And to have seen him closely work, I know the precision with which he takes decisions, the deep thinker he is, and we look forward to his thought leadership articles. He also is Vice President of Academy of Sciences. He's Chairman of Board of Governor of JNCSR. He's also Chairman of the Scientific Advisory Committee of National Mission of Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical System that I was lucky to be part of during, while he still leads it. And with such a personality, obviously you know that his work has won him recognition globally. He has Santi Swarup Bhatnagar Award, he's an Infosys Prize winner. But as our founder this morning, yesterday said about him, and we were talking right before his fireside chat, that again, he's one of the rare breed of scientists who can connect deep science into marketable, realizable products that are creating impact. And with over 50 licenses and product and patents, he is somebody who is an amazing stalwart for us. We are really pleased that he could give us time. We've been working with his office for the last 3-4 months. Please welcome Professor Rao here with a big hand, please. Yes. Professor Rao, thank you. He has a presentation, and he's going to talk.
For a moment, I thought he's introducing somebody else. But I will just talk about some of my ideas on what I believe. I have 15 minutes, so it's 3:30, 3:42 or so I will finish. So I served these 3 institutions now for the past 27 years, and done a few things. But in this particular talk, I'm going to talk about what we need to do next as a country. In fact, the previous panel discussion, the conclusion they came up with, what Ashish said, the new institutions, is what I also believe, we need to do something on those lines. So I will also share some of my thoughts on that. This is one slide that talks about the current status of India's R&D. Now, currently, if you look at the rankings and whatever it is, we have the maximum number of institutions in the world. Nobody has more institutions than India. And that's because we have so many tiny, tiny institutions, right? I mean, look at JNCSR, the finest science institute in the country, has 45 faculty. And NCBS, yesterday I was also talking to Shashidhara, 40 faculty, 45 faculty. What is that? I mean, these institutions should have 200 faculty each, right? So that's what it has become now. Our good institutions haven't scaled up. All IITs, 23 IITs today admit about 17,000 students at the undergraduate level. One large US university would admit as many students, right? What our 23 IITs do. IITs are also very tiny. So because we have created so many of these small institutions, which are high quality, but we haven't been able to scale them up. That's one big challenge that we have. And in terms of number of students, we have number 2. China has more students than us. Their gross enrollment ratio is also twice ours. We don't have enough seats in these institutions even, if everybody wants to study. And in terms of research, we are ranked 3rd. I think we are writing lots of papers. I mean, I don't know who is reading them. I think people seem to be reading themselves and then citing them, and then it has become a sort of a self-propagating kind of a mechanism. And patents, we are also filing lots of patents now. I mean, 6th for patent filings, and even that we have seem to have perfected the art. In terms of citations, we are 9th for citations, and but these are all, most of them are national citations and cited within the institution, and that's also one model that is evolving. I write a paper, 10 of my colleagues in the institute will cite it, so that way my H-index will go up and everybody's H-index will go up. I think that is a kind of a model that we seem to have discovered now, and so which is what is happening in many institutions. But the real problems start from here. Even after this point will come real money, right? What real value creation out of your research. So for innovation, we are ranked 39th right now. The innovation is, what have you done with this research? Have you created any wealth out of this research? I think in IT, we have done very well in terms of unicorns and all that at least pulls us up to 39th. Otherwise, things would have been much worse on that parameter. So thanks to IT, we seem to have done well on the innovation front. We are not spending enough money. I think all of us are telling each other that we are not spending enough money. Unfortunately, none of us can do anything about it. So I hope one day the government will recognize that we need to spend more money and will actually do that, real money. And so that again is needed. And we don't have enough scientists. India is a large country. We have just about 280 scientists per million population, just 280. China has 2,000. America has 4,500 scientists per million population. We just don't have enough people in any area. I can count on my fingers how many scientists we have, how many great people, how many people are doing research at the international kind of a standard, right? There's 10 people in every area, nothing more than that. At least in my area, 10 is all what I can count right now. And academia industry, hardly anybody is collaborating with anyone. There may be some, sporadic kind of things that might have happened, but 86th, this is the world report, which also ranked it as 39th. That report is a 100-page document. If you go into those details, you actually find a lot of this data in the same document. And so 86th for academia industry collaborations. We were 81st previously. Now we have gone down to 86th. I think things have actually become worse on that. And we are writing papers, but I think China and US are way ahead. And but it's not that government is not spending money, even our industry is not spending money. The total money, R&D investment by Indian industry for their own research, it's not that we are asking them to give money to us, their own research investments in their own industries are 0.2% of GDP. I think that's a big problem. And that's the reason why no new technology or product comes out of our industries. In comparison, US, right, such a large economy, 2.7% of GDP is spent by industry on R&D. South Korea 3.9%, and even United Kingdom, is 2.1%. I think this is something that needs to change. I think this is the current status of India's, R&D ecosystem and innovation ecosystem. And I think the pointers are very clear, right? We need to, improve academia industry collaborations. I think that will require a major policy push, and we need to spend more money, right? And I think we need to scale up our institutions. The good institutions need to be able to hire more faculty, and which again is something that needs to happen at some point. Otherwise, all this, there will always be some excellence here and there, but excellence will not become a norm, and you don't, see too many people, at the level that you see, in the audience today. I think this is what is required right now, and we are writing lots of papers without spending money, without investments. I think India ranks #1 today officially in terms of per dollar spent, how many papers you can write. Nobody can write more papers than us, and we are better than China when it comes to that. That's the only parameter where we can even beat China. So this is India's R&D status right now. So how do we, improve on some of these parameters? That's the question that all of us need to ask ourselves, because, all this Viksit Bharat, all these Bharatas, all that we are talking about is not going to happen unless we invest in science and the translation of science. Like I said, we are also doing very well in patents, 6th in the world when it comes to patenting, right? And but again, I look very often, whenever I go to ministry, right? When I was in IIT Delhi, the ministry guy says you should file patents, and you should earn revenue, license these patents to industries, get money out of them, and run your institute, right? That's how, there is a myth going around that if you file patents, you earn more money, right? There is actually nothing like that. I mean, which two institutions in the world do you think can make maximum money out of their patenting? Stanford, MIT. Let us say the two best institutions in that space. You can actually go and check how much money Stanford earned last year out of patent licensing. By filing a patent, licensing it to an industry writing a check in the name of Stanford, how much money you think Stanford made out of that? 0.66% of their total revenue came out of IP licensing, just 0.66%. MIT earned 0.86% in the same year, right? That's not much. You cannot run an institute by filing patents and earning money out of it. So I think the only people who make money out of patenting are actually the lawyers. Nobody else makes money out of patenting, right? So now what do we do next? But why do we still file patents, which is very important? The same Stanford, if you look at, right? By leveraging the patents that they have done, the startups that have come out of Stanford, right? The industries which have made use of, the technologies that are developed at Stanford, the total $3 trillion is the value created by Stanford out of these startups, right? And all these startups, when you do a technology startup, without IP, there is actually no startup, right? So that is where the real value lies. If you file a patent, nobody is going to come write $1 million check and take that patent. That might happen once in a as rarely as you land on moon, but otherwise that is not a day-to-day kind of a phenomenon. The real value lies in encouraging or rather creating that ecosystem where startups flourish out of these IP. And then the industries come and collaborate with you, use that IP to develop new products, or the patents that you file jointly with industries. These are the ones which eventually see the light of the day. So without creating the deep tech startup ecosystem, without creating that academia industry collaborations, otherwise patents will have no meaning at all. We need to file patents because so that others will not come and sue us, which is okay. But if the patent never sees light of the day, it's actually a bullet in your CV, which is good for promotions and things like that. So that is exactly what is the real story of the patenting, right? So therefore, to generate any value out of research, to generate any value of IP, right, you need to create that ecosystem where for the deep tech startups to come up and also for academia industry to collaborate. These two are very primary in order to do anything out of whatever we do in the academia. So bridging that gap is important between academia and industry, and that is where I will also come to these are the 7 P's. I just thinking I did not try to force that P there. I think they came very naturally. So you start with a problem, right? The problems become projects. That's how the sustainable translational ecosystem should look like. Those projects, you do research on those projects, you write papers, and you also file patents. I think that's a process that goes hand in hand, right? Out of those papers and knowledge and that you generate and the patents, you build prototypes, and those prototypes become products where it could be through startups or it could be through industry collaborations. And then those products earn profits, and then part of those profits go back to solving more problems and then creating that ecosystem which is self-sustaining. I think, if you, unless you do this, and you will never be able to satisfy anybody in the government that we are doing great things with the research. So I think we are stuck with projects and papers for almost like half a century. I think take money, write papers, we were all good. I think we all made our careers by doing that. And once somebody said, you need to file patents, we even did that. So now, a lot of patents are being filed, but that's not going to solve anything. I think unless we move forward and start building prototypes, start building, commercializing some of these, I think things will not happen. This is not to say that basic science is not important. I come from a deep technology kind of institutions like IITs and BITS Pilani now. So therefore, all of this I'm talking about is primarily for the technology kind of research, and without science there is no technology anyway. So this is an integrated innovation framework that we need to create: education, research, and innovation. An institution, if you look at, these are the three verticals an institution would basically focus on: providing high quality education, generating new knowledge to research, and then translating that knowledge for societal good. And the research today is coupled to library, right? I have actually done an informal survey myself. 90% of PhD problems today come out of literature review, right? That's why all our theses start with the literature review, right? And what is actually required is a system which is more integrated, where the ministries are coming and giving you problems, right? The defense, DRDO is coming and giving you problems. Space is coming and giving you problems. All these agencies need to come and talk to the academic institutions and give you the real problems so you can do something out of that. I think that is not happening. Unfortunately, the people who have problems, they have their own institutions too, right? They only go to their institutions when they need to solve a problem, but they don't come to any of our institutions and engage this larger cross-section of faculty we have to solve any problem. And in the absence of anybody expecting me to solve a problem, I'm in a state where I can create my own problem, spend my lifetime solving my problem. That's exactly what is happening with the academia, right? Otherwise, people are good here. I mean, there is nothing wrong with the people, but they are working on a problem which is their own creation, not given by anybody to them to solve, right? That's what it is. And we go to a committee, we present it to a few people who are also like us, right? And then we convince them, they give us money, and that's how the vicious circle, completes. So this is exactly what is happening today. And if we ever want to break it, I think policy and our funding mechanisms need to be different. And I think this is where, India, like I said, the IT, right? We have 120 startups now, unicorns, right? I mean, these are all doing very well. But what are these unicorns? I actually did a survey on all of them. Less than 5% of them are based on an IP, an intellectual property. Less than 5%. Just about 4 of them are actually based on a deep IP, and based on which they built a company and which became a unicorn. The rest of them are aggregation models. Somebody is aggregating restaurants, somebody is aggregating taxis, somebody is aggregating dhobis, somebody is aggregating carpenters. I think these are the kinds of unicorns that we have created out of that, which is good. They have at least created some jobs for some people, but that's not going to transform India or make India a Vikasit Bharat, right? I think the real innovation is in creating wealth, solving problems through deep technologies, and that has to happen out of academic institutions, because any technology platform, right, it has to have deep research behind that. That can only be done from academic institutions which have the expertise of carrying out that kind of a research. Education research, I think we seem to be doing well, at least in whatever numbers that we have. But innovation is where we seem to be lagging right now, in even our top institutions, right? And so that is where, in fact, at IIT Delhi, when I was the director for 6 years, we said, how do we break this siloed structure? I can tell you the simplest way to break the siloed structure is, induce faculty with some money. The only thing I did at IIT Delhi was we created a program called FIRP, Faculty Interdisciplinary Research Program, research projects, where we said a faculty member from electrical collaborating with somebody in biosciences, each of them will get 5 lakh rupees each. Just 5 lakhs here, 5 lakhs there. If, of course, they have to write a project which is reviewed and which is done all of that thing you do. But then once the project is approved, you give 5 lakh rupees to the electrical faculty member, 5 lakh rupees to the bioscience faculty member. You do it for 2 years, right? 5 lakhs, 20 lakhs is what you spend, with the condition that after 2 years, you have to go out and get funding from outside the agency, meaning you have to write a proposal to external agency out of what you have done using the institute money for those 20 lakh rupees. So your success is judged based on how much of external funding you brought, right? That is the measure of success. And of course, you write papers and patents and all that will naturally happen in any funding that you provide, right? But the success is measured based on how much of external funding you actually generate. So that is what I call the idea factory approach. Idea factory to me is bringing these unlike minds together, where people with different cultural backgrounds, people with different disciplinary background, or people with different attitudes. Academia industry collaborations fall under those different attitudes. At IIT Delhi, during my 6 years, we signed MOUs with almost every institute that existed in Delhi, because it was so easy. And so we also created this FIRP. We migrated to MFIRP, multi-institutional faculty interdisciplinary project. I even spoke with Anurag at the time, and he funded some of his faculty, we funded some of our faculty, and that's how we connected IIT Delhi faculty with institutions outside and even departments within IIT Delhi by giving that 5 lakh rupees each for 2 years kind of a thing. We spent about 7 crores at IIT Delhi in funding this FIRP, MFIRP projects, and after about 4 years when we looked back, we had something like 130 crores of funding which came out of those FIRP projects. 7 crores of investment, 130 crores of returns, which came as external projects. IIT Delhi was doing something like 80-90 crores in 2016 as sponsored funding. When I left, IIT Delhi was doing something like 400 crores per year of sponsored research funding. I think once you solve the problem of connecting people together, I can tell you they will solve many other problems too. I think to solve that problem of connecting people together, you need to invest money. I think that is where the DST, ANRF, all these people need to start investing money in bringing people together, to solve some of these problems. And out of this research, we created many other ways to, take it to startups and all of that. So we did a lot of things. I have run out of time, so I will not get into that. But even during the COVID time, right, IIT Delhi, right? Of course, we all complain about nothing much happening out of our institutions, but during the COVID time, in those 2 years of COVID, IIT Delhi developed so many technologies, from a low-cost, antigen kit, right, 50 rupee kind of a test, to low-cost RT-PCR kit, right? All of that we could do because the entire institute, whoever were left there, were all working on COVID. So once they start working on a focused problem, with funding provided to solve a problem, the same institutions can transform themselves. I think that is all what is needed to solve India's problem. If you look at ISRO, why do you think ISRO has succeeded? People have gone out of our same institutions and running ISRO, right? The only difference is in ISRO, whatever you may do, you need to finally put it into the satellite. Unless the satellite flies, you have done nothing, right? So therefore, India succeeded where clear goals are set. And because in academia, nobody is setting any goals for us, I think we tend to just do whatever we think is important, and that is what is the problem with this. I think a grand challenge kind of an approach at the national level, I think posing the right kind of problems for academia, providing them funding to come together and solve a problem, I can tell you, these are the very simple things that we need to do, and India will be a very different country, in pretty soon. I mean, IIT Delhi, 6 years, we saw 4x increase in funding, a lot of things happened within that, and it was a kind of a turbo progress kind of a thing. I think that's all what is needed, and there are a lot of technologies India is doing very well. But this is a slide I want to brief upon. There is a smile curve, right? I mean, India thinks that by creating manufacturing, we will do great, right? I mean, India will become Vikasit Bharat. It's not going to happen. There is a nice smile curve which you can actually see, it's a management theory. Where does the company make their money, right? Look at Apple, right? And Apple doesn't do any manufacturing. All manufacturing is done by Foxconn, right? So what is the valuation of Foxconn? Foxconn valuation is about $60 billion, $70 billion. Apple valuation is $3 trillion US dollars. That's the difference. What does Apple do? Apple does the two extreme ends of that smile curve. They do concept, right? They do R&D, they do branding, they do marketing, and then they do the marketing and all of the last one, which is the sales and after sales service kind of a thing. I think by just focusing on those extreme corners is what Apple now becomes $3 trillion company. The guys who actually build Apple phones in Foxconn, they're $60 billion, kind of a valuation. And the lowest profit is always at the manufacturing level. I think India needs more product companies. People who can think of a product which will solve a problem. I think look at any US companies, all the $1 trillion companies today are all in the US. There is not a single $1 trillion company outside US except for the Saudi Arabia Aramco. I mean, that is an oil company anyway. But all the technology companies, Europe has not been able to create a $1 trillion company. No one is able to create a $1 trillion company out of US. Because US has perfected this art of product companies, right? They don't do any manufacturing. NVIDIA doesn't do any manufacturing. All manufacturing is done by TSMC, right? I think that is a model we need right now. We need more product startups. That is where BFIs, kind of institutions probably can make a difference. And, but today the problem is for everyone to solve a problem, right? For me to do research, for me to build a prototype, for me to do marketing, for me to sell it, all that is not going to happen. I think not everybody can do all of that. And that is where we need some labs. We need some institutional mechanisms, institutions which can actually handhold faculty, which even take this IP and do the rest of it, without that faculty member. Because faculty members now need to guide the next PhD student and write the next paper. I think for expecting faculty to stick with one single thing that they are doing is not going to happen. So I think that is where I believe, we need labs. For a better name, I just call them Naliwal Labs, but yesterday I saw that he's a very shy person. He may not want his name. I think he called them N Labs. That's okay. I think, so whatever labs you want to call it, right? I think basically their goal needs to be to look at in academia, what they are doing, what is IP getting filed, take some of that good IP, build prototypes and products out of that, and then bring it from TRL 3.4 to TRL 7.8, and after that you can start companies or you can have industry to take it up. Okay? That mid gap is where we need labs right now, and CSIR ideally should have been doing that, but I think CSIR is like more like university than Naliwal Labs. So I think this is what is required right now, and this is how what these N Labs should be doing. It should be beyond an incubator. Incubator today is what you go there, you are given a chair, a table, some people and nothing much, right? But I think we need there people who know how to do marketing, people who know how to do manufacturing, people who know how to build prototypes, people who know how to get certification, right? You build a product, where do I go to get the certification? Not every faculty member can figure it out, right? I took full 10 years to take my idea to market, but not everybody can spend 10 years in doing all of this. So I think we need one place where you, starting from IP, starting from TRL 2.3 to TRL 7.8 for select IPs, and then magic will happen. I think that is what India requires right now. Unless we create these institutional mechanisms, I think everybody struggling to do this is not a best way to go forward. And I hope someday we will actually do that, but I have a full proposal. But I think since you thought I'm only talking of translational research, I always talk about, without deep science, there is no technology. Behind that mobile phone, there are at least a dozen Nobel Prizes. At least a dozen Nobel Prizes you can put behind that Nobel Prize. And I think the top talent, not only doing science, they are not even doing PhD anymore. I think that's another big problem we are going to face as an issue right now. I think India needs more such institutional mechanisms to work as a bridge between academia and industry. Unless we create that, I think this problem will survive. A few who have that escape velocity, moving up and doing something is not going to solve a problem. I think we need more and more people, to actually be doing that. That can only happen by doing an institutional mechanism, by creating that institutional mechanism. I'll stop here because I think I have run out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very constructive suggestions and recommendations. And to express our thanks, I would like to invite here on stage the co-founder of Jeevtronics, Mr. Ashish Gawade. And ladies and gentlemen, to a very accomplished and revered academician and technologist, Professor Rao, this a very specially selected innovation we are presenting, Jeevtronics Innovative Handheld Defibrillator, as a token of our appreciation. This is world's first dual, that is hand-cranked and AC mains powered defibrillator, and is a fitting example of indigenous innovation. Thank you, sir, for all those recommendations towards bridging the gap between academia and the industry and investing more in research and development. And you actually touched the point which Mr. Piyush Goyal had also mentioned in a startup summit when he said that for India to be actually moving towards becoming Viksit Bharat, there has to be more innovations coming from here. And I would also like to invite Mr. Sandeep Nelwal, our founder, to please join us on stage. Yeah. So a special token, a memento being presented. Gratitude. Thank you very much. Again, that we need to invest in research and development. We need to be hand-holding the innovators, the startups, and the startups need to be investing a lot in their ideas and taking them to the fruitification. And instead of aggregators, there has to be real innovation coming from India.
Just on a lighter note, I was just sharing with Sanjeev sir there that, you know, my name's Nelwal. It's from Uttarakhand, but many people, like, you know, many times will see it, like sometimes the I will get, you know, replaced by, so sir said Naliwal. Naliwal in Delhi and, you know, North India would be like Nali is like the drainage system. And then sometimes people will replace the I or miss the I. Then it will be Nalwal. That means the tap, the guy with the tap. And then the most funny and my favorite version is that from the, you know, I had a Tamilian friend and they said he removed the L and it became Naiwal. And Nai is dog and Wal is the pooch, the tail. So it became like Kutte ki pooch. So that's my favorite version of the name. So just wanted to share a lighter note.
What's in the name? So moving on to the panel, the next panel, we are just going to be taking time in setting up the stage. And I'll just take this time in introducing, as the stage is being set, in introducing our moderators and the panelists. This session is going to be on emerging AI future and its impact on healthcare in India. The emerging AI that can deliver to making quality healthcare more accessible, more faster diagnosis, predictive care, making healthcare more efficient, inclusive, and more future-ready. So we are going to be discussing this in this panel discussion with our moderators and the panelists. Our moderators, Dr. Satya Prakash Dash, already introduced, but just for the people who have just joined us, biotech strategist he is, innovation leader, currently with BFI and Big Tech. Formerly, he has been with BIRAC and BITS BioCity. He's helped shape India's biotech roadmap. With multiple degrees and a PhD, he bridges academia, policy, and entrepreneurship. Joining along with him as a co-moderator will be Dr. Shantanu Pathak, the co-founder of Care Mother. Dr. Pathak develops affordable maternal health devices used across India. An IIT Bombay PhD, his innovations have served over 500,000 women, bringing quality care to underserved communities with national and global recognition. Our panelist will be our founder, BFI, Mr. Sandeep Nelwal. The lead talk will be done by Dr. Geeta Manjunath, a pioneering technologist and a healthcare innovator who founded the Niramai Health Analytics, serving as its CEO and CTO. Apart from the lead talk, she joins us also as a panelist. Ms. Laina Emanuel, the CEO of BrainSight AI. She leads the AI-driven innovation in brain health, blending tech, strategy, and impact. She's advancing personalized, data-informed neurological care through scalable, proactive tools. I invite her to please join us here on the dais. Dr. Anand Sivaraman, the founder of Remedio. He combines engineering and AI to expand access to eye care. His tools have enabled over 7.5 million screenings globally. And MIT PhD, he innovates at the intersection of healthcare equity and scalable diagnostic solutions. Mr. Ravi Bhogu, the co-founder and CEO of Monitra Health. He leads development of AI-enabled cardiac monitoring wearables for accessible heart care. With an engineering background and a healthcare focus, he is driving innovations that are improving early detection and patient outcomes. And then we have Dr. Nikhil Agarwal, the Managing Director at FITT IIT Delhi. Dr. Agarwal drives academic innovation and startup incubation. He has led ecosystems at IIT Kanpur and advised governments on entrepreneurship. He brings global perspective to India's innovation landscape. We can have a round of applause for all the panelists here. And with that, for the lead talk, I would like to invite Dr. Geeta.
Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be amongst real researchers who are trying to change the life sciences, innovation and medical device scenario in India. We have a galaxy of innovators and founders on stage. Thank you, Satya, for inviting me and putting me and asking me to talk about what we have done at Niramai and what are the learnings. So yesterday I spent some time sort of chatting with people and so on. I realized, and I made like general what needs to be done, how is innovation, TRL levels and all. But after meeting people, I said, okay, what may be really useful, because most of you are researchers, most of us are researchers. So let me try and sort of share some of the learnings, that I had as a computer scientist out of like a PhD from IISc, and I was a principal scientist at Hewlett Packard Labs, and then I was heading AI research for Xerox. And then, like many of you, like I just faced a situation that required, which instigated me to quit my job and start Niramai 8 years ago. So at Niramai, we've actually developed a new method of detecting breast cancer, which converts temperature maps to a cancer health report. So the innovation really, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just to give you context to what I'm going to share later. So we just measured temperature just using a thermal camera, which looks like any of these cameras here, and using a bunch of AI algorithms, 20 plus AI algorithms, we convert this to a breast health report, which can be immediately actioned. In rural areas, we generally directly generate triaging, red, yellow, green, so immediately you know who is weak to be brought to the hospital directly, etc. And yes, we have patented along the way. We have 39 granted patents, out of which 15 are granted in US alone. Yes, we have done a lot of clinical studies, which was extremely critical to increase adoption and trust among the doctors and practitioners and users, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to actually do this in the right way. We stumbled upon, we did wrong, right, everything, but hopefully those of you who are starting afresh or in the first few years of your journey may actually benefit from here. And then finally, we've actually commercialized on the cloud, AI being paid per scan or as an annual license. And so far at the end, this is my intro for the startup part. So now we have partners in 20 plus countries who are just starting to sort of use this, and so it's a great thing to see about 3 lakh women benefiting from this or scanning from here. Of course, after the FDA, CE, all the regulatory clearances that are required for the respective countries. And thanks to the ecosystem, we've got multiple recognitions, including last year we were called out as top 20 technology pioneers by World Economic Forum. So this is the short story of where we are in MI and what are the learnings. So the topmost learning for a scientist and entrepreneur, especially out of clinical, learning all the clinical piece was very, very interesting. I have stopped reading any computer science books or anything, only oncology and radiology books and conferences I've attended in the last 10 years. Having said that, I think the topmost thing is the clinical validation. It's the most important segment or function for any startup which is working in, of course, clinical decision support. Particularly talking about AI being the theme of today's panel, this is an important part. And the way we think about it, and maybe it's there in some books also, this is from my own learning as to how the different complexity or different stages of the clinical study itself needs to be conducted. Of course, there's idea to prototype, we all know TRL 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Then we, as AI scientists, we do cross-validation to sort of fine-tune the parameters to the data set that you have in the training set and validation set. And then you would have a test set where you do the lab testing. So this piece is, of course, something that most of us do with existing data, work with the hospital, build the models, etc. But the fun starts, the commercialization or the fun starts after the TRL 6, 7, which was also. What happens then? We have to conduct and see the clinical trials in different stages, right? Retrospective studies, as you know, is existing data, we know the answer already, and then you treat that as completely test set for the people who are working the AI model. You can understand what I'm saying directly, right? And then try to sort of, predict the values and then compare with the labels that are already known, right? So this is good, but still there is no blinding, and of course you can publish and so on and so forth, but you definitely need to do prospective, blinded, multi-site studies to make it really valid. Where people are coming in, you first do your test, predict the labels or whatever, and then the same person goes and does the current standard of care, and then you compare at the end of the full sample set. It's extremely important to look at the prospective, blinded, multi-site studies, and of course you have to publish, and we'll talk about it. So during this time, you may want to go back and do the sort of the lab testing, change your model. That's a cycle which goes on. There are different cycles everywhere, but this is the most important cycle where you learn from real world testing or real field testing, I would say, in the hospital setting. But if you're trying to address, let's say, an impact or let's say a point of care device like what we have done to triage in rural areas and so on, you have to test in those real world conditions and actual users using it, potential future users using it, right? So when we do this, obviously there's always a bailout condition. The decision may not be made just based on the results of your medical device, but so for example, in our case, if we predicted that this is cancer or not, the current methodology that is used for low resource setting is clinical examination, right? 98.7% of women are detecting their cancer by hand. But still they said whenever our tool is going on the field, we will also parallelly do the clinical examination and we don't harm the patients. But you can have that both in parallel and take the right decision for people who are found to be positive by us. So we have to put the real world evaluation in a position or in a setting where the end user is not harmed. Of course, you'll always keep the end user in the mind and not harm her or him throughout the process. And finally, we do the community rollout and part of it. Technology assessment. I know that many of you already are aware of many stages of this, but this multi-stage process is good to think about it as a scientific model. So what are the issues to take care of in these, right? Initially, of course, when you're building the AI model, etc., building an AI model for healthcare is absolutely very, very different from building AI models for other, applications, for example, especially when you talk about clinical decision support, right? It's good, but number of unhealthy people are much much lower than number of healthy people. For an AI scientist, it's not a good thing because you don't have equal balancing. So you have to use innovative methods, boosting some of the positive samples and so on, right? And obviously you have small data set. In our case, we actually did not even have a data set because we started off with thermal images, and every bit of the 1.5 million images we have is, every bit of it is collected by us. It was not available for us to download. But even if it's available, it will be very small. So how do we kind of bootstrap with simple models, take it to collect more data, and then so there is also some kind of an incremental build-up of the data set that we can do. To just give you an idea, the first model we built was with just 300 samples, right? And then again, we used it on, in studies and so on, and made it bigger, etc. What is very, very important is also about when you're training the AI model to see how golden, how correct is the label. So typically we take a, let's say in a medical image, you take an image, show it to a doctor, and use that as a label. Ideally, one label per image is not sufficient, right? We need to kind of, have at least, 3 labels and make sure that there is no bias from the labeler. There is any gap in the expert who is labeling should not be translated into this. So these are some of the things that we have to really take about. In our case, again, we took the biopsy result to kind of, label our data. So it was like really golden truth. And we all, as developers or founders of startups, should remember that there is huge stake for any bias or any error that we're introducing. Unlike, for example, an ad is shown, personalized ad, and if you click by mistake another ad, it's fine, right? But it's not true in a, when we talk about false negatives or false positives. Other aspect is the interpretability of the result. So when I talk about interpretability versus explainability, there are two different things. But interpretability is the result that you're providing should require minimal training for the doctor to understand. As much as possible, try to align with the existing framework, existing scoring systems, so they are able to easily align, and utilize and understand the report that is generated. Coming to the validation of prospective real world, obviously IEC approval is absolutely needed even for this. It's important to, in a prospective validation, to choose the right reference test. What is the potential replacement or equivalent current clinical practice that you're replacing? So it's very, very important to choose the right one. In order to do that, work with the clinicians, get opinion of at least a few clinicians to make sure that if I prove that, let's say my test performs as well as mammography, it is sufficient. Is it sufficient? Or should I do more? So we ended up doing comparison with mammography plus ultrasound because we realized that most hospitals do both, right? So that's very, very important. And doing the studies on the population that you intend to make or claim the device to work is very important. And last but not the least, don't forget the CTRA registration. We did it in multiple places. We had to stall the studies, etc. Think about it. I just wanted to get to the practical level. And, oh my God, it came together. Okay. So there is, there are a bunch of issues. I don't know how much time I have, but maybe I'll just quickly flash this, and then we will talk more about it in the panel itself, I think, is that when we're commercializing it, this was more about just getting it ready so that we can go and really try it on people confidently, right? That it has good sensitivity, specificity, and so on. And when you're doing this publishing, I see some of them, of course, we can publish in Indian journals. It gets accepted. You can do conference papers. It's very, very important to get to the top, peer-reviewed publication, reputed. It takes time. We all know as scientists how many rejections will be there. But once we got the Lancet Oncology paper is when at least 4 or 5 hospitals came forward and said, yes, they will adopt it. American Society of Clinical Oncology. These are the kind of, publication venues that we chose to, and that really helped us in improving the adoption. And explainability is about showing how it made a decision, why the algorithm made a decision. It's different from what is it saying, the why part of it, and making the output more actionable. So the explaining the internals in some fashion. And it's difficult in a deep learning model, but we can discuss how to do it if anyone of you are interested. But showing the internals or explaining the decision process to some extent is very, very important. That also increases the trust in the users and the clinical partners. And when we talk about scalability, I used to be really very, very angry with all the quality processes, ISO, etc. But trust me, it's the most important part which ensures reduced confusion within the company when you want to scale and suddenly you want to send 10 devices tomorrow, all the different processes are done or something like that. And then, of course, when it is being used in a clinical setting, in a hospital or something, it has to integrate well with the rest of the system. So understand the protocols that are used within the hospital setting, like the DICOM or the PACS system that's using. So design from the beginning to be interoperable, at least when the output is being generated, is it going to sit well in the current system? Trying to understand this in parallel and being ready was important. So when we actually wear the business hat, of course, then we have the issues of what is the business model? How are we going to sort of, charge them? Who is your target segment? How do you go and reach them? And all of it, it's a different class altogether. And of course, the data privacy regulations are different for different countries, GDPR, DPDP, HIPAA, etc. As long as you follow the basic proper kind of rules with information security management rules and anonymization of the right places and having the PII in a different place, etc., you usually will be able to take most of the data privacy laws we see a lot of commonality among these as well, except hosting your data in particular countries and so on and so forth. And liability of results. I think this is very, very important. Who takes the ownership of a wrong result or a right result? I mean, right result is all fine, right? When something goes wrong. So here, like every medical report has clinical correlation recommended because doctors can, of course, also, it's error to human, right? So there's always make sure that any report that is generated is also vetted through your legal, counsels to make sure that medical legal counseling or consultation can be taken for your report formats. As well as we actually have good agreements with our providers, basically partners, to make sure that we say that, okay, we take the liability of anything that's going wrong because of our own AI algorithms. But then, yes, we partner with a clinician who would actually sign the report also. So it will have kind of, dual ownership of the liability. So you would actually also have to have a product liability insurance, because, anything can go wrong at any point in time. Though you want to have like 100% sensitivity, 100% specificity, yeah, that's rarely possible, right? And so you actually claim only things that your device is doing, and then we'll be able to sort of, provide the right. What we promised is what we will deliver. So that way we can, also hopefully, so far we haven't had any issues with that. So right now we are taking care from the agreement perspective and ensuring that, of course, a clinician partner is actually always a doctor is signing the full report when it's generated into a hospital. However, when you're doing a triage in a rural area, we cannot find a doctor to sign. For screening, it's usually okay to have the triaging done without the signature of the person because it's only a screening piece. And last but not the least, after doing all of it, finally it has to be equitable and really make sense to implement this. So how is the current status? And when you introduce your device, how expensive is it going to be? Not just for the device itself, are there additional people who have to be hired? So all of this have to be taken into account for the health economics piece, and that there are actually, now we probably know that HTA, there is an India level HTA center. Please apply there because we actually did it with Kalam Institute much earlier, but then that is not valid when you go for government adoption, things like that. It has to come through the HTIN. So that's an important piece. And then last but not the least is reimbursement becomes more and more important, especially when you go like to outside India, like US and other places, where it's a longer cycle to actually get the reimbursement or a government to pay for it. But generally in India, especially for corporate insurance, people in corporate who have insurances, this basically, there is a preventive pack where any report which is signed by a doctor and has a certain format can be reimbursed. So if you're providing a corporate camp or you're doing screening for corporate employees, you can definitely reimburse with some of the ICICIs of the world, right? Insurance vendors. So again, happy to give you more info. So it is possible to reimburse for corporate users today and try and go with government. Today, government doesn't reimburse preventive care, but try and find places where you can give it free of charge to the end user. So these are some of the practical tips. I thought that is what will be mostly useful to the audience I met, at least quite a few of them yesterday. And I want to stop just with one last slide. Though as Niramai, this is a slide from Niramai's side, we are working on breast cancer so far. That particular technology is valid for many other type of cancers and other abnormalities. So those clinicians here, if you want to partner, happy to find ways of how we can use this technology and adapt this for other abnormalities. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta. We have 40 minutes. I can see it here. And wonderful last slide. I think it captured everything we wanted to kind of talk. The audience is apt. Actually, the first session here was also an AI session because it got if you heard them, it's a brilliant panel. They're saying the AI is going to be such a big factor in whatever we do, including healthcare research, right? The second issue we have is that this panel has my founder, who is seeing different, of course he is an AI global expert, and he's seeing healthcare as well as one vertical. The third issue is that I haven't slept last night, which means that I will easily pass on the baton to my moderator, Shantanu Pathak. What we're going to do is rapid rounds of interventions by each of you. All of you are founders and friends. Hopefully, the friends part will stay by the end of this panel because I might just get up and grab your mic. I'm just kidding. But what a panel this is, just for, I mean, you can Google them. They have, I think, amongst them 100 years of experience in AI, even though AI is maybe also 60 years in making, as well from Boltzmann. So let's start with the first question. And every time I ask a question, I would also like, in some way, perspective of global thing. The reason we wanted to do this is you cannot escape AI, right? I mean, at BFI, Gaurav and Pooja will testify that whenever we look at projects, there is an AI component. So Sandeep, for your information, almost 50% of our projects will have an AI component, right? So AI is everywhere. And all of them, including Geeta who spoke today, and to my left is Shantanu, I should have said there, so it's much easier, are building products with heavy AI integrated into it. So my first question, and please remember, these are rapid rounds. Everything is a rapid round, so 2 minutes each or 1 minute each, and I will game the system here. So rather than going sequentially, I'll just, pick one so that you pay attention to me and him. So the question is this: how are you integrating AI into your products that you are building, obviously, and the problems you encounter while building those products? And this could be technical related or the problems of the ecosystem, right? 2 minutes starting will, of course, go with the lady first. Geeta just spoke, so Laina, you go first.
I think you can hear me. Okay, great. So just a quick this thing, we do brain mapping, and we do brain mapping to understand the functions of the brain, which is then used by surgeons to conduct surgeries. AI is used in various steps of the whole thing. One is we use it, I mean, there are so many, when you look at a brain, there are lots of unsavory parts of doing it, which is first you have to strip the skull. And then once you strip the skull, then you kind of look at the video of the brain. So stripping the skull and doing all of that initial processing itself, there are lots of AI methods that we use. The second after that is to build a graph of the brain. That's that's actually one of the most complex things because it's 42 billion neurons and you're looking at the map of all of them together. So building those graphs is the second place where we use machine learning models to reduce the complexity. The third is to interpret the results. So once you know the graph, you need to look at things like this is the language function, this is the sensory motor function. So there. And the last is, now if you have to explain this to a doctor, doctors who don't like a lot of the math and the computational work, so you have to kind of put it in their language and have like a conversation with them on what is the validity of this, what's the paper behind this, etc. So a lot of like agentic AI to explain that. So as you see, there are like lots of different steps in which we use AI.
Perfect. Perfect, Lina. You stuck to exactly 2 minutes, so you get some Vimersh points from us. Okay. Gaurav, please note that. So she mentioned graphs. How do you explain to the doctor who may or may not know about AI and the validity of what you are telling the doctor that this will solve your problem, right? Let's go to a friend of mine whom I haven't met in 8 years, and thankfully he took my phone call when I called him, and that is Ravi Bhogu.
Hi, Satya. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's such a august gathering. So cut to the chase. I have 2 minutes. What we're doing out here is trying to solve two biggest problems in clinical cardiology. One is patients faint, and second is patients have palpitations. Very difficult to diagnose. So what we have done is we have built a complete end-to-end remote cardiac monitoring platform, which consists of Band-Aid-like sensors that you put it onto the chest. All the data from there goes to the phone, and from phone it goes onto the cloud. And the duration for which we monitor patients is anywhere between 24 hours, and the longest that we have done is about 180 days, which happened last month. For us, we get tons of data, and from an AI standpoint, we're specifically using it for two problems right now. Number one problem is that we have millions of, say, heartbeats that come into our system, but it's only those one or two, which are the problem that you need to identify, and identify it really well without false positives and false negatives, and that's what we're using AI for at this point in time. Second thing that we're doing is, while we're building this AI platform, I think we spoke about, how do you develop trust amongst your customers is very, very critical. And one of the things that we need to explain to them is that we're not here to replace, them. It's a tool that acts like a second brain to them. So how do you give them information in a shape and form that they understand that, this is a tool that helps them, is a problem statement that is a work in progress for us. Adoption initially, they were skeptical, but now with the studies that we have published and with the information that we're giving, we are seeing significant adoption, not just in India, but outside India as well.
Thank you. Trust, amongst your customer, that's what I wrote down, very important, we'll maybe touch upon that. Before I go to Anand, I'll go to Nikhil. Nikhil Agarwal, what do you think your startups are doing? He runs an incubator.
First of all, Satya said that he hasn't slept last night. I got a message from 4 a.m. in the morning, which is the next best Netflix show. So I know you are watching Netflix.
I think Gaurav can testify that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, I work for IIT Delhi, and we are one of the largest tech incubators in the country. 200 startups we have. So the question is not about that how do we use AI, what kind of technologies we are building in AI, and whether our companies are AI enabled or not. The question is that how much data we can gather. Today we are sitting on a gold mine, what we call data in India. We are the largest defense incubator in the country. 73 startups we have exclusively in defense. In biosciences, we have close to 50 odd companies. Agri-tech, we have few companies. Drone companies we have. Now, they are certainly become the AI first company, or what we call them, AI is the blood what runs in the veins. The question what we are asking them is to, because the models that is developed in the West, they are no good until unless they have access to data. Today, the clinical trials that the Indian companies can do, the amount of data we can access as a usable data for the consumer, which is second to none. And most of the data which is used and which is available to us can be leveraged by the global companies. So India has an opportunity of becoming the playing ground for AI and the future of optimization in the, and the role that the institutions are playing have become very critical. So one example I'll give you very quickly about how the whole system is changing in space technology. So the startups in space, particularly in space technology, and how the space technology and biosciences comes together. India is one of the 5 countries which are able to develop technology in space, and Indian startups are defining space sector. Space sector is completely missed by the big companies in India. More than 1,000 companies are today in the space sector, and they are coming up not only in coming up with new composites and materials and energy efficiency and engines, they are coming up that how do we, what kind of medical care we require in a space environment, what kind of food we eat in the space environment. And that kind of cross linkages and that kind of data linkages are extremely critical. So I'll stop here and then maybe do a follow-up.
Thank you, Nikhil. So you were saying that a lot of things are happening in space. And we were doing a program with Big Tech called EDGE, and we have some space technology, but looking at cell growth in space, right? So there's biotech and space coming together. Thank you. Let me jump to, should we give our founder the last word, or before that we'll bring in Anand? I don't know. Should we do a show of hands? No, it's okay. Let's do Anand. Anand, Laina and Shantanu and I got into a call. I've noted down some points. Anand, the product, the problem. Go ahead.
Thanks, Satya. So I've got to stick to the 2 minutes and to the 3 Ps. I guess Dr. Rao was talking about 7 Ps. He's just given 3 of those. What we work on at Remedio is to ask the question, how do you move eye screening to the last mile? So a lot of these devices that you have which are big, how do you make them portable? That's one part of it. How does AI come in? We build algorithms which are AI on the edge. So that smartphone that you carry actually has a lot of AI algorithms that actually run on the GPUs there rather than the cloud. So what we build are algorithms that automatically detect eye diseases on these imaging platforms that we have built, use hardware devices that are based out of smartphones. And today we started off with eye diseases, and the next set of regulatory approved algorithms that we are bringing is to ask the question, what are the other systemic diseases like kidney diseases as well as cardiovascular risk? Can we start looking at triaging at a population level? So those are some of the newer algorithms that we built. But that's really what we work on the AI side along with the hardware side.
Thank you. Thank you, Anand. Sandeep, we have somebody looking at imaging and breast cancer, connectomics. The first word I learned when I spoke with Laina many years back. Anand in ophthalmic space, cardiology. And actually, you should hear a bit on Shantanu. Shantanu, can you do a 2 minutes quickly? Even though he's a moderator.
Can you hear me? Quickly, so we at Doto Health are looking at maternal and newborn care, primarily trying to address the problem of quality of care or transforming how we look at maternal and fetal and as well as the labor aspect during pregnancy compared to conventional methods, whether there is a fatigue, where there is a skill gap or even availability of tools. We are transforming the way fetal labor and maternal care can be looked at by using AI algorithms to flag risk earlier. Importantly, enabling doctors to make decision using those flags, which otherwise manually would have been missed. So when you look at 6 to 12 hours of labor, on an average I'm speaking, there could be even 18 hours of labor. Imagine 3 shifts of nurses or 2 shifts of nurses are happening. There is no necessarily a documentation that is happening as well. How do you flag those risks which can be prevented? So when 50% of the maternal and newborn deaths are happening during the labor or immediately 24 hours after that, monitoring quality becomes an important, and that's the problem we are trying to solve at hospital as well as at last mile.
Thank you. You also stuck to 1 minute. So finally, Sandeep. Sandeep, you are an AI expert. You're in Dubai. What is it that you are seeing in healthcare and AI from your vantage point? Where do you think the kind of exciting stuff that you are thinking? Of course, we have 7 exciting stuff happening right to your right and left, right? Except for me. What others you are thinking? Like we have use cases of heart, use cases of breast cancer, ophthalmology, and maternal and child health, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I am working primarily currently on AI is a little bit more on the, kind of the upstream, as I keep saying, like, upstream work of
We
the
like
AI
that
where.
word. We like that word.
Yes, because, so I basically, the LLMs are all the generative AI is basically all the rage. And, my company or protocol, you can say, is basically trying to tackle this one problem, which we all know, and that's the doomsday scenario of AI, right? So, obviously one scenario is that AI goes rogue and, creates its own intent and goes against humanity. That could be one of the problems. But, that anybody who knows LLM deep enough that, he knows that, okay, that is like a little bit of a, far-fetched reality right now. The bigger reality, which could be immediately very problematic, is that a very powerful AI is controlled by a single entity, which goes rogue or uses it for, wrong purposes. And we are already seeing examples of, in some of the countries where authoritarian governments are there, they are using this AI to have like facial recognition and, putting more curbs on the individual freedom and all that. And, like we can already see right now with the, with the OpenAI, Google, Grok, they are becoming extremely powerful. They have access to the whole data of the world. So what we are trying to do is basically right now focused on creating tooling and the middleware, which allows AI to be governed and owned by multiple parties instead of one single party, and AI to be open source. So right now, like, you must have, like, this is one of the most scariest thing recently has happened is that, Meta launched the Llama, model, and due to that, there was a wave of open source AI. So China, copied that model, and they started having their own AI models because they realized that due to this, you can reduce the advantage that the American AI companies, Google and ChatGPT specifically have. But now you are seeing in the last, 1 month back, we all heard like Meta trying to hire $100 million plus packages to individual, experts and all that. And they have now expressed that they don't want to make their model, open source now. So what will happen is that this wave will start flowing in the reverse. Like everybody will stop open sourcing their models. And that will mean that few companies, have the AI with them and completely controlled by them. The part of the reason is that to create that, that core brain of the AI, it requires immense amount of compute, billions of dollars of investments in not only setting up, but then running it also. So there are very less incentives for open source AI. And that's what we are trying to do, that we are trying to create tooling and middleware and stuff which allows open source AI to be monetized and open source AI to be governed by multiple parties. And
wonderful.
Yeah.
Open source is thy name, is what you're saying. And I'll ask a very question later part, just before we finish, and it might excite people here or even in the panel. I will, Geeta, you spoke about, the last slide was great, all of them. Of course, people now know about your product. Which of those 7 that you showed, or 5 and 5, 10, if you were to pick one problem from that you found while building Niramai was taking away your sleep. If you could restrict to 2 minutes, we'll then go to Shantanu.
Yeah, I think I did take more time explaining the breast cancer piece already. So, but yes, so, trying, from the iceberg picture, right?
From the last slide, yes.
Yes, last slide. So, yeah, so it all depends on who is the partner who is interested, because we believe that we can actually create, first time I'm sharing this in public, we can actually create a foundational model for thermal AI analysis, which doesn't exist in the world today. Imagine thermal is different because it's radiation-free, non-touch, and private as well, and low-cost equipment. So I think that is what is the power. So now any disease which is in the organ, which is soft tissue, can be monitored in different ways, because there's vascularity which is seen. We can actually map the vascularity, and we have some new biomarkers we have created. So I wouldn't put any particular, it depends on who is the clinician who's interested in which disease, but we have done in head and neck, skin, many aspects in early studies are looking very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Geeta. Okay, you have heard them all now from their vantage point, what they're doing. We're clinicians here, researchers, startups, even policymakers, funders. We'll now talk about, I'll pass it on to Shantanu, but just so that the panel knows, we'll talk about monetization, a bit on maybe ethics, regulation, and what do you think India is doing? Is it doing great? What should India be doing to adopt it? So a bit on adoption, and then finally funding, and I'll ask one question to my founder later in the end. So let's start with monetization, and Shantanu, go ahead.
Yep. I think part of the success that we define for startup is also monetization, right? And when investor comes into the picture, that also becomes important thing. So this question is to Anand to start with, and then we can open up for a couple of others. We had this discussion, Anand, where we talked about monetizing, your AI could have a better feeling, but a tough task. But solving that clinical problem is a great thing to do. So how you would like to comment on your experience on better approach or better feeling to solve the problem, but having tough time to monetize it?
Well, before Anand says, you said detection mein paisa nahi hai when we were talking to you, right?
So I think the context in which we were discussing was, I think a lot of us who are scientists, there's a lot we will focus in terms of solving the technical problem or the clinical problem, but the business problem is equally important to solve. And for me, business and impact go together, because the more number of people that you're able to reach, utilization increases, and automatically you also have business ROI. So the challenge I was saying is, sometimes if you think of a test, like let's say what we've done, where you have an eye exam being done in a last mile, you'll think in terms of someone paying for that test, right? Now, when you think of population health and preventive health, I'm sure many of you today would love to take a test, but free mein ho jaye to better hai, right? So that's the common perception that we all have. Now, we sell in India and we sell in the US as well. So these are devices designed, developed, algorithms done here, and devices done here. So in the US, we sell through the payer ecosystem. So there are reimbursements in place, right? But you have creating a market which is preventive health. So the narrative there is to say the AI is about detecting disease early, so that you save money on acute care costs. Very, very simple. You fit into an ecosystem under reimbursements. Now, when you don't have reimbursements here, that's where we said, if you're just going to detect, you need to ask yourself who in that journey of the consumer benefits the most as a result of detecting that customer, right? And I believe very strongly that in the early days, the mistake we were doing was trying to earn money on it as a test. Versus we realized out of the 100 million patients with diabetes, roughly around 6 million need something called anti-VEGF, which is a drug that is done for diabetic retinopathy. But all pharma included, including Roche, Sun, Cipla, everyone put together, were able to reach only around 1 million of them. So we said, can AI actually solve the problem of where are these 5 million? So that now you basically are earning from what happens downstream of detection rather than earning from detection itself. So that was the context in which I said sometimes you need to get into the analysis as hard on asking who's actually paying for it.
And that was the context in which we talked about monetization.
Yeah, thank you, Anand. And that, just selecting the problem statement and looking from monetization aspect become very important. Laina, your thoughts quickly on monetization.
Absolutely. I think our journey in monetization has been, so we started off with psychiatry. My co-founder's PhD was in psychiatry on how you use imaging for serious mental disorders. And I think as every startup here would know that pivoting really quickly when you know that there's no monetization there is super important. So then we started talking to neurologists and because connectomics as such has huge potential in very early diagnosis of dementia. In fact, much earlier than eye scans, it has been seen. So we started talking to them, but as Anand said, if you detect at year 0, and there is no medicine for year 0 dementia, nobody really wants to know, and it can scare the patient. So nobody was really willing to look at that. So then we started working with neurosurgeons for whom there was this burning problem that, hey, I want to know the functional aspects of the brain while the patient is on the surgery table. Can you help me with that? And when we had that burning problem, we had the monetization. And so that was, it was a journey of a year and a half to get to the point where monetization was apparent to us, yeah.
Thank you, Laina. I think after brain, let's come to the heart. Very important issue for the country. Ravi, if you can comment.
So my experience is great tech doesn't necessarily always translate into great revenue. I think it's a journey. One of the things that we need to understand in healthcare is very complex. You have multiple stakeholders and also not necessarily the incentives for every stakeholder are aligned. So what do I mean by that? Say, for example, if you're trying to make sense to an insurer, okay, so for an insurer, when they save money, it's the provider, which is the hospital, that loses the money. So it is very, very important as startups for us to identify which stakeholder in healthcare you're making sense to, and then to go after that. The other key part, based on my experience, at Monitra Health and my prior experience at J&J as well, is that, markets in India where reimbursement is evolving, it's significantly improved, but it's not at the same level as developed markets. It's very, very important to find a sustainable financial model in which all the stakeholders make money. Okay, it's not enough to have a killer feature, that makes sense to only say either the patient or the doctor. So in our particular case, for example, we work with say patients, of course, at the end of the day pay, for the product, but you have say distributors, you have hospitals, and then of course there is us. So unless you find a sweet spot in terms of say financial model where there are enough margins for every stakeholder in the ecosystem, it's going to be very, very difficult. The other key part that we need to always keep in mind is that when you touch a provider, there are credit cycles involved. So you need to at least keep, say, on paper they say 30 days, but it can go up to 60 days to 90 days. So those are factors that we need to keep in mind, while figuring out the monetization strategy. So these are some of the learnings that I've had.
Okay, anybody wants to do a quick 20 seconds intervention before Santanu goes to the next question? Anand?
Just wanted to add that even from a public health angle, under ABDM PMJ, while it took us around 6 years, now there is reimbursement for eye screening as part of ABDM PMJ. But it took us the time to first work with NHS, show the technology in Kerala then implementing it, then doing a health economic analysis, and from there going to the government, bringing it under policy, and then bringing the change. Yes, it did take us that 4 to 6 years, but I think the things are changing. There is now a framework by which you can do this for all diseases, so that you can also now start doing detection with under ABDM PMJ, there being reimbursements on the non-surgical or non-interventional side as well.
Okay, so there is something about reimbursement that you're touching upon as well. Okay.
So quick learning, it is a learning curve for all of us, I think 4 to 5 years to figure out. And while selecting the problem statement itself, if we can have some additional efforts on understanding monetization pathway. I was reading this paper which came last week on Nature's Communications and particularly about explainability in AI. And when I started reading, I thought, am I reading, AI paper, or am I reading a relationship complexity paper, where, the words, keywords were transparency, trust, hallucination, and naturally explainability. On explainability, maybe we can start with Sandeep and a more broader perspective on AI, and particularly in this case, for a clinician, how one can trust AI and how explainability can play a role in building the trust.
Yeah, on the product side, like I'm guessing that the the output benchmark or the testings the teams have, but I can talk on the LLM level. Generally, I mean, these models do have a kind of tendency to hallucinate, and mostly the way that you try to see the performance of the models is via benchmarks, right? And so that's the primary thing that is used across the globe, that there are multiple open benchmarks, and once there is a foundational model, you try to test it against those benchmarks. Then we ourselves, we have been working on something called alignment internally, which actually talks about, let's say you took an LLM model and you were applying it on a particular healthcare product, right? And what we work on is that the use case builder, let's say it could be a government, it could be a healthcare company, it could be any other company, they try to write a constitution that what this AI should not do, right? Like, what are the boundaries, what are the guardrails? Because hallucinations can be, we recently saw Grok saying awkward things about, Jewish people and all that. So, because these models don't have a way to have the alignment inside them. So, you basically, this is an additional form of, after benchmarks, you can add some sort of constitutions, and then we have invented a particular pre-training technique, post-training technique, which basically makes sure that the model has additional guardrails as per the use case. And then I think, like, using these guardrails plus the benchmarks is the only way to trust the testability. But once you have like something like that on a product, then you can actually evaluate what tangible came out of it and whether it matches the experimental data and all. I think with products, it's even better served. But I'm talking on the core LLM level.
No, absolutely. I think that's really important, and thank you for bringing that out. Might be useful for all of us to look at those models as well. Geeta, from your perspective, because you are making a critical decision, and clinician has to trust on either referring or taking next step based upon it. So how do you see clinicians trusting your AI model?
Absolutely important to make the AI explainable, as I briefly mentioned in the earlier session as well, so that there is trust and there is also incentive built in for further action. So it's not sufficient to just say, oh yeah, this person is likely to be malignant, but the doctor should take that seriously and suggest for the follow-up test and so on. So for now, because of the hallucination piece, we are not using LLMs on the last network, etc. But what we have done is with deep learned networks, we have found, actually it is again a patent granted in US, where we said is we sort of pull out one layer before, just going into details so that there's some sense of it. So you pull out, and then we try to interpret the intermediary feature set for the doctor. Just like, when we actually gave out, for example, irregularity is 0.01 into 10 to the power of -3. The doctor doesn't make sense. So now how do we, so the doctor said, don't give me like this. Tell me something that 1 to 10, 5 and above is positive. That's what I want. So we figured out a way of training one layer before, which is usually unexplainable deep learned feature, but training those as separate machine learning models so we can get discrete features which are interpretable. So this was a phenomenal difference when we actually took it to the radiologist and say, just like you look for irregularity in mammography, now we are giving you irregularity features, shape feature. The amount of trust that it increased was humongous, and they start trusting the final. And also marking the area of likely malignancy. This comes under the explainability. It's not sufficient saying, yeah, this left breast is saying, okay, here is the clock position, here is a dot. That increased the trust again, right? Explanation can come in, like he's saying, it could be use case dependent. But you have to understand what is that the doctor will feel comfortable about the answer, because they are able to act. When I say marking here, they can clearly immediately do an ultrasound at that location, target it, and we can say. So we'll have to look at explainability in that angle, in my opinion.
So the presentation of it, as well as the exact clinical indication which they can believe, becomes
and
very
it may
important.
require developing additional AI models to explain that as well. That's what we ended up doing.
AI for AI.
AI for AI.
Quick interventions from Laina, Anand, Ravi, Nikhil.
So one is certainly explainability in terms of design. I completely agree with you, Dr. Geeta, there. But I also think of AI as like a very smart intern to a doctor. So you obviously the intern will come up with hypothesis about the patient, personalized hypothesis about the patient. But it's the doctor who will take the final call. And obviously the intern might go wrong in some cases, and the doctor then takes. So it's really a hypothesis generating. And when you pitch it like that to a doctor, where it's more about, here's a very smart intern that I'm giving you who can read all of this data about a patient and then give you some hypothesis which can then help you think further, that helps a lot. So that's explainability to me. Yeah.
So in the ophthalmology space, unlike most other spaces, the way the field is evolved is it's more autonomous AI. Right? What does that mean? You're not actually giving it as a clinical decision support system. So today under CDSCO, we are in class C. It's almost like a drug, right? So in that case, explainability becomes extremely important because you tomorrow want to make sure that what the AI is detecting as a result of which it is classifying it as presence of disease or absence has to be, as Geeta also mentioned, something that the clinician also sees. So there are something called class activation maps by which you look at those regulars. So it becomes very, very important in case of autonomous. And I think it lends itself more explainability to deep learning models as opposed to, let's say, LLMs, where you're going to essentially have the challenge of hallucination, etc. What's going to be interesting now is, as all of us are evolving to, let's say, thermal imaging vision foundation models, we are looking at, thermal imaging foundation models, we are looking at vision foundation models. So I think it's going to be an area of active research where prospective trials, and this is where rather than retrospective clinical trials, it's going to be prospective trials that are really going to make sure that you've done enough based on prevalence to say that you're safe to use, but at the same time, you have to keep monitoring. So monitoring becomes an important aspect. So job is not done once the product is done and you brought it to market. Your responsibility continues on monitoring as well.
Monitoring. Okay, Ravi?
So our experience is that if the AI model just gives an output, like a black box, it's a non-starter, nobody accepts it. So traceability is very, very important. So if you tell the doctor saying that this is atrial fibrillation, the model has 95% confidence score, and the reason it's giving this particular output is because it's not able to see these P waves, and these are irregular, and the RR interval is also irregular. The tendency to believe and to trust increases significantly. And of course, you've got to go through studies to prove your AI models in terms of, say, to give them confidence in terms of, say, what's the outcomes that you're showing. So it's a combination of these two are my significant learnings out here.
Thank you. Nikhil?
So picking up Sandeep's point on hallucination, I think hallucination is not always bad. Now there is an evidence available in New York University where the researchers are deliberately trying to see the alternative result through hallucination. Because those alternative results take years of trials and clinical study, but through the hallucination they are able to come up with alternative results, and they are able to compare those results with the real results. So those alternative pathways are coming up with a new kind of area of interest and research, and which is in fact cutting down short on, so always negative side is not always seen negative side, but how this negative can be used positively. The another question which very quick answer I will point about from the public policy perspective, which Satya has touched upon, about the India role in being a responsible AI user or AI enabler. So India has been always a proponent of non-alliance movement. I think it's time that we can take this leadership once again, that we can create a responsible AI framework where we can lead. We are certainly not the leaders in developing of the LLMs, but more from the use cases perspective. But the responsible use of AI, because ultimately being the largest country in the world, we will be affected quite a lot if the doomsday scenario comes true. So certainly the responsible AI, ethical AI, the India should take a lead. And that's a role, I think, as a startup founders, we have to play a role.
Okay, ethical policies and all that Nikhil touched. We have 2.5 minutes, and I'm not allowed to go overboard than that. So my last question, and this is the last question to all of you in the panel, again rapid fire. What should India do in AI, healthcare? One gap just mentioned, and what India should do. And because our founder and our CEO, both of them are here, and Chio is not listening to me, he just started listening to me. What should BFI do on AI and healthcare? Okay, so 2 questions, we'll again game it, and the first one is Ravi.
I think access to computing infrastructure is very, very critical for AI. We're currently dependent on Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. If there's a way for us to access this infrastructure at a lower cost, I think it will be a big win for all AI-based product startups.
Perfect, thank you. Access to computing infrastructure. Laina?
Can I say 2 things? One is, I think, foundational models, which everybody has talked about. I do think that if India actually builds foundational models for vision, for thermal, for brain, it could actually be a first across the world, and we can do a lot of things there. And the second, I think, is if the people of India need to actually really benefit from AI, I think the control of the data and monetizing of the data also needs to go back to them. So I think that's another thing that I want to think about. So.
Nikhil?
India, so the AI is a rich person's game. It's an educated people, rich person game. It's a non-inclusive activity as of now. The role the BFI, certainly India is a poor country, a developing country. So one thing is India should do that we should reach out to the much larger population and interconnectivity. The role of the BFI could do, the AI and the healthcare in AI is limited to certain colleges and certain institutions and certain organizations. The role BFI can do is you can connect interconnectivity with the public hospitals, public infrastructure, so that the ethical use of data collection and dissemination should happen. That is an extremely important, and what I talked about, the India creating a responsible
We've
ethical framework.
overboard, so thank you for that. So interconnectivity is something that Nikhil has said. Okay, and Shantanu doesn't get to speak now. I forgot who was the next one. Okay, Geeta.
Sure. From the government perspective, I think we should create a department of health data or something like that, where we're trying to use even the government hospital data coming together, and somebody with proper governance is ensuring that this real data is available for researchers to play with, rather than Kaggle say download, everything is clean.
Is there a similar department somewhere?
No, I'm just coming up with it. There is an AI department in UAE that I know. There's a first Ministry of AI is available, but this is something maybe like a data pool across all. But what is available again in UAE is M42, I think he will know better, right? They are trying to get all the UAE citizens' patient data into one and then become the next big AI in healthcare piece, something similar. And from BFI, I think, I mean, you have done excellent work already. I think if you can start funding startups for doing clinical studies, and then because using investor money to do all of it is extremely difficult. Writing grants, is also difficult because, that's I think is an important piece that we should consider.
Okay, thank you, Geeta. We have Anand and Sandeep. I flip the coin and Sandeep first, and then Anand goes last.
Yeah, I think like what India should do already like mentioned very clearly, compute. I think BFI can play a role in compute. Indian government does have some AI compute clusters, and if BFI aligns and straightens up this process and makes that available, especially for the healthcare sector, that could be a very big contribution from our side. We should look into that. And second one is the sovereign, kind of the models we also talked about. That especially these large language models also, LLM, they are built on global data, they have biases and all that, and due to which I think the ability of Indian government to allow them at large scale will always be diminished. So either we should, India should build a sovereign model from scratch, or it should, kind of invest in building the alignment, that guardrails, which puts the India constitution or India related things or those sensitivities in terms of the LLM models. And I think the third thing that, Geeta ma'am said that, about the data, I would say about like clarity on the legalities on the data is even more important. Like data is especially something I'm looking very deeply in India and in healthcare also and otherwise. But the data laws are very, very, still very confusing and tedious to, clarity on that would also be very helpful.
Perfect, thank you. Compute clusters, then sovereign models, and creating guardrails and all of that, and clarity about legality of data. Okay, thank you for that, Sandeep. Anand?
So I'm going to bring it
Anand,
more
we're
from
running against time, so 30 seconds.
quickly. See, we were at a time where we were up against Google as competition, right? When we were bringing our AI out, and we succeeded because we were in India. And what do I mean by that? The quality of data that you get here, the clinical cohorts that you have, they developed algorithms there, brought it to India, but it couldn't work because they worked on pretty pictures. We had to take it on real world. So what you have in India is a lot of real world data. That is really going to give us the strength to be able to do something. It's always good to work under constraints, build something that is highly innovative because of the constraints, and then it works everywhere. It also worked very well when we went outside India.
Wonderfully put. Such a dichotomy. We're talking about AI and real world in the same sentence, but great point. Thank you. I think we've gone over 3 minutes and 40 seconds. I'm not to be blamed for that. But big round of applause for our panelists. And Minister Sir is coming at 3:15 online, so we have to do the felicitation of our panelists quickly. So, Vimi ma'am.
For this very forward-looking and promising session, as we thank each of our panelists, I would like to invite from Energize, inviting Ms. Shalmali Kadu, co-founder, to kindly present special mementos, this innovation from them, from Energize. Energize is a mental health tech startup, well known for their very engaging health content, and Energize was co-founded by Dr. Siddharth Bhargava in 2023, along with Mitanj Khurana and Shalmali Kadu, who's presenting these mementos. Their flagship innovation, Energize, is a sleek behind-the-ear device that uses sound waves to gently stimulate the vagus nerve, the body's natural relaxation trigger, through personalized 10-minute sessions to help relieve stress, improve your sleep, and restore balance. So Dr. Satya was telling me he could not sleep last night. This is for you. So big round of applause for all of them, and we close with a group photograph. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be moving straight into our special session. The Honorable Minister, Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, is going to be joining us through a VC. May I request people who are seated at the back, you can probably move in front, can be more in front. This is going to be a special address from the Honorable Minister. And ladies and gentlemen, I think all of you, the innovators who are present here, the healthcare experts who are present here, will agree that having the Honorable Minister, Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, who himself has been an innovator, an out-of-box thinker, a creator, someone who has been adding and is someone who's known more for his work in the infrastructure towards building quality roads, transport, highways. He's known as a highwayman, a flyover man. But then this again has a far-reaching impact on our healthcare sector, making our healthcare delivery more accessible, more reaching out to the masses, more to the people at the last mile. And then he's been a person who's been advocate of the biofuels and of sustainable mobility. Once again, that aligns with the public health policies and the healthcare policies and environmental goals of India. He has been someone who's been a very strong proponent of public-private partnership, of collaborations and people coming together, ideas, innovations coming together towards nation building. He, ladies and gentlemen, apart from that, his very vision and mission for India and his own principles of working for the needy and working for the underprivileged people, it endorses and further supports the very vision and mission of BFI. Ladies and gentlemen, he has been reaching out to the underprivileged people through Antodyaya, and that stands for eradication of abject poverty, provisions of basic necessities to every family, and ensuring that the last person in society gets equal opportunity. And that is what BFI is also being working for. This is the same principle, the same ethos which Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji, and other country figures, saintly figures had emphasized, and Gadkari ji pursues of the work which Shri Nitin Gadkari ji has been doing. If you can play the video, please.
There are followers, there are leaders, and then there are visionary. Taking people and society to where they ought to be rather than where they want to be is what separates a visionary from a mere leader. This rare quality is what sets apart Nitin Gadkari, Minister of Road Transport and Highways, from many of his ilk. Born in 1957 into a free-thinking agricultural family, Nitin Gadkari at heart has always been a social worker inspired by the RSS founder KB Hedgewar's ideals of humanity and nation building. Taking off as a Minister of the Public Works Department in 1995, Nitin Gadkari made groundbreaking changes in the speed the city of Mumbai traveled. So impressed was the then PM Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji with Gadkari ji's performance as PWD minister that he offered him a responsibility of weaving road nets in the whole of rural India. The outstanding Swarnim Chaturbhuj Yojana, of which Shri Gadkari ji was the chairman, is the culmination of these efforts. 55 flyovers dotting the city have made commuting in Mumbai much easier than ever before. The foundation for the magnificent Bandra-Worli Sea Link was also readied during this time. The jewel in the crown of Maharashtra, India's first expressway, the world-class Pune-Mumbai Expressway, is also a futuristic project imagined and brought to fruition by Nitin Gadkari. Connecting over 13,000 unconnected villages with an all-weather $100 million USD project is another feat accomplished by this far-sighted visionary. Nagpur, his hometown, has seen first of its kind double-decker bridge. An innovative beautification of flyover using local artists and painting of great political and social leaders was added attraction. Ajni Intermodal Station will have connectivity between long-distance buses, city buses, railways, metro and indirect link with city airport. Nagpur Broad-Gauge Metro, which is a commuter rail project planned for Nagpur city and extending up to adjacent areas of Wardha, Narkhed, Ramtek, Bhandara and Chhindwara. World-class institutions like IIT, IIM and AIIMS emerge and thrive under his watchful gaze. This is in addition to the over 1,000 Ekal Vidyalayas that go a long way into molding the future tribal generations. Performing over 10,000 successful heart surgeries is another stupendous achievement in his illustrious career as a warm-hearted do-gooder. The city of Nagpur is the first city to explore alternative biofuels for transport. These include bio-CNG buses. His innovative idea of India's first of its kind CNG-run tractor has proved to be farmer-friendly, cost-effective and helping in reducing air pollution. In a historic push for biofuels, Gadkari ji is introducing flex engines which will run on 100% ethanol, directly providing additional income to farmers and the agricultural sector. Sanskritik Mahotsav, motivating local artists to go nationally. Krida Mahotsav, supporting local sportsmen to showcase their abilities and motivate them to go nationally and on Olympic level. Projects like AgroVision are helping farmers with latest technologies and practices. His idea of using sewage water for power generation, use of ethanol as fuel have added a whole new dimension to the city's development program. As India's current Minister of Road Transport Highways, he has re-energized the whole sector with his clear vision. With more than 40,000 kilometers of national highways constructed in the last 7 years, 60,000 kilometers of new roads under his supervision are being constructed. The speed of road construction from a mere 3 kilometers in 2014 has grown to 40 kilometers in 2021. The dazzling Delhi-Mumbai Expressway has set 4 new world records with 12,500 cubic meters of concrete being laid down on the 4-lane stretch of 25.4 kilometers. These world records are as follows: highway construction rate at 37 kilometers per hour, construction of 2.5 kilometer long 4-lane concrete road near Vadodara at Delhi-Mumbai Expressway in 24 hours, laying down of 26 kilometer long bitumen road at Solapur-Bijapur section of NH52 in 21 hours. A 50% growth in the length of the national highways in the last 7 years of the NDA government is a monumental achievement. The figures went up from 91,287 kilometers to 1,37,625 kilometers. Going further, INR 3.32 lakh crore is allotted for 22 greenfield expressways, initiated by the bridge building messiah as he is fondly referred to. Bharatmala and Sagarmala, 2 world-class access-controlled expressway projects led by Nitin Gadkari, are presently in various stages of construction. The Bharatmala project seeks to eliminate the perennial road traffic movement imbroglio across the country. With Nitin Gadkari taking charge, India's much maligned logistics sector has also metamorphosed from a point-to-point model to a hub-and-spoke model. This multimodal transport system integrates railways, highways, inland waterways and airports, conjuring a highly effective transportation grid, substantially reducing logistic costs and pollution. 35 multimodal logistic parks, 50 economic corridors, 10 intermodal stations are being readied for the monumental effort. Logistics summits with the international participants, including government organizations and the World Bank, leading to MOUs worth 2 lakh crore, have been held to add muscle to the initiative. Among his other endeavors, unprecedented progress is evident in port industrialization, national water highway traffic, jetties for coastal tourism, Ganga Yamuna cleaning, fundraising, asset monetization project, toll operate transfer. As MSME Minister, he has gone all the way to promote entrepreneurship, helping rural youth to adopt Khadi as a means of self-employment. The MSME Ministry has also found wings under Mr. Gadkari. He changed the definition for classification of MSME. Now, a company investing 1 crore and earning a turnover of 5 crore will be classified as micro company. The portal Udyam Registration UR offers faceless, fully online, paperless and transparent MSME registration process fully integrated with income tax and GSTN systems. His brainchild, Jal Kranti, Buldhana pattern of water conservation which changed economy of villages by rejuvenating water bodies, has won a global award. Mr. Gadkari introduced the first ever vehicle scrapping policy, which proved to be the fight against pollution and in the interest of road and vehicle safety. New FASTag policy is helping commuters to save their fuel and time on toll plazas. some of his major work, like unprecedented push for research and development in electric vehicles, leading research and development for usage of waste materials in highway construction to cut down highway construction costs and generate wealth out of waste materials, developing ropeways and funicular railways in the remotest parts of the country, thus boosting tourism. Panchgaon project for women of making carpets from scrap cloth is a classic example of women empowerment. Khadi Prakritik paint, which is made from cow dung, is aiding in employment in rural areas and have exponentially improved rural economy. When all industries were shut in the pandemic, Mr. Gadkari empathized with people by conducting webinars and 800 plus video conferences. His quick decision making in procuring oxygen PPE kits helped those affected by the deadly virus. He generously donated ambulances to NGOs, helped to set up oxygen plants, factory to make remdesivir injections and injections for mucormycosis. Thus, by showcasing strong leadership and taking quick decisions, he handled the COVID situation effectively. His affable nature goes beyond everyday personal equations as he continues to transmit his radiance and ideas to every individual or organization with his unmatched zeal. Gifted with an ability to dream the seemingly impossible dreams and getting them to fruition also defines this clairvoyant visionary. Nitin Gadkari shines on as one of modern India's pioneering leaders and his work a template for the coming generations. If there ever was the infrastructure man of India, he would answer to the name Nitin Jairam Gadkari.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a minister who always walks the talk, who's casted really impressive and massive greener footprints towards nation building, a warm-hearted person, a minister who has delivered to his every word and bringing about a change in our country, a transformist, a reformist, an innovator, someone who stands as an inspiration and a role model for all of us. He joins us for his special address. And as I said, his words and his vision, which he has for India and for a Viksit Bharat, definitely inspires us and motivates us to be working for our nation. So we all are waiting for his address as he joins us. He stands as one of the tallest leaders of our government, delivering to the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister of making India a Viksit Bharat and truly a Viksit Bharat by 2047 when we are going to be celebrating our 100 years of independence. And as we have been talking about, when we talk about Viksit Bharat, it is not just about the economical growth, it is not just about GDP, it is also about a more holistic growth, Samagra Vikas, what we say, Satat Vikas, a sustainable development of our country, more inclusive growth of our country, and taking the benefits, the programs of the government, of the businesses to the people at the last mile, taking our research, our innovations, so that they can bring about a difference, a change in the lives of the needy. And it is the idea and the very thought behind the institution of BFI also stands. As was mentioned, it was instituted, BFI was formed during the COVID time with the very idea of reaching out to the people, helping the needy. That was shared by Mr. Sandeep Nelwal, our founder. And must I mention, our founder also stands as a huge fan of Shri Nitin Gadkari ji as he joins us. We really, in fact, stand grateful to him. He was supposed to join us in person, but due to some, as you can see, some meetings he's been having, but he gave us time to be connecting with us through this video conferencing. Okay. So the Honorable Minister is going to be joining us in another 5 to 10 minutes from now. For we have the opportunity of also knowing from you any views or any feedback towards the summit which we've had. So for that, I would like to invite Dr. Satya, the expert here, to be taking that open house from all of you.
We have 7 minutes, so let's do, my CEO mentioned that 7 to 10 minutes, so dekhen jara. I think let's do a quick, and here I think Mala, please tell me when Minister Sir would be joining so that I'll stop it. Let's do a couple of things. I think this is full house. Great to see, second day almost of the first day of inauguration. Why don't we take people we know and introduce themselves to the people here. I know you would love to go and do the QR code so that you get the prize. Who's going to start? Or should I go to point at people and say, ma'am or sir, please introduce yourself? Let me go to the ma'am I spoke to with IIT Bombay today. She does work. She did her PhD from Harvard, was an IIT Bombay graduate. Please take the mic to her. She's sitting right next to the camera. And introduce yourself, 1 or 2 minutes. I don't know whether, Anand, have you spoken to her until now? Both of you were in Boston at the same time. Okay, okay. Somebody quickly. I also don't see Sandil or Sridhar Narayanan. I'd love to put on the mic there. So, okay, we'll probably finish off 7 minutes by people running to the mic.
Hi. So my name is Prakriti. I'm a faculty at IIT Bombay in the Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering. I work in the area of biomaterials, and broadly we use materials for applications such as immunotherapy. So we have a couple of projects that we have developed for cancer immunotherapy, where we are doing in vivo or in situ modification to target T cells and macrophages for specific tumors. We've also developed another product for rheumatoid arthritis, which is an injectable gel-based system. And another project that me and my postdoc are trying to take forward is with respect to the dermal implants for skin tissue engineering. So these are broadly my sort of projects that we are working on in my lab. And my bachelor's was in material science and engineering, also from IIT Bombay. And after that, I did PhD and postdoc in biosciences and bioengineering from Harvard. So that's my background.
Thank you. So please reach out to her to connect and know more about her work. Thank you for that. Can we pass the mic to Shandil here, our good friend, amazing scientist. I think Sridhar Narayanan has gone. He's a co-founder. I will allow one startup pitch to my founder. So starters, raise your hand and I'll take her.
Thank you, Satya.
Random call. Shandil, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Satya. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody at BFI to have us here today, and for the long-standing interactions that we have been having together for almost a year now. So thank you very much for all that. I come from a company, a foundation called Foundation for Neglected Disease Research, FNDR. It's in Bangalore. It was co-founded by my colleague, Dr. Sridhar, who was here till now but just left. And my name is Shandil. Both of us were at AstraZeneca initially, but in 2014, AstraZeneca shut down its infection unit in Bangalore, and that's where we came out and we started this foundation. So what we do briefly is basically we work in infectious disease only, exclusively rather. We don't work on cancer or cardiovascular or any other thing. We are a kind of preclinical company. We develop compounds, new drugs, discovering new drugs for infectious diseases, and most of it could be bacteria, virus, fungal, anything. More importantly, the mainstay have been TB, actually, in tuberculosis, non-tuberculous mycobacteria, and we have a strong team of about 45 today in last 10 years, where we have reached. And we have on state-of-the-art BSL-2, BSL-3 infrastructure, and that's why we work on some of these deadly pathogens. During COVID, we did a tremendous job, especially thanks to BIREC and DBT, who funded us a platform along with THSTI in Delhi, and we established all kind of in vitro models and hamster model of COVID infection, and we provided service to hundreds of academic and industrial partners in the pharma companies.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Please reach out to Sam. A good round of appreciation to him. Okay, I'll pass the baton to somebody I know also for a long time, Vaijayanti Gupta. She has been co-founder of CRISPR Bits, but can you pass on the mic to Vaijayanti here? Quickly, how are we doing, Mala? 2 minutes? No, okay, no confirmation yet.
Thank you, Satya. I'm Vaijayanti. I'm representing CRISPR Bits here today. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer there. We are a CRISPR company, one of the first companies to actually start working on CRISPR in India. And we are based out of Bangalore. We have...
You can turn around also, more people can see you.
Okay. Yeah, so we are based out of Bangalore, and thank you to the Blockchain for Impact team. And we were one of the first funding to build our platform using CRISPR actually came from Blockchain, who actually put the trust in us to use our technology and develop a platform that could be used for diagnostics. In fact, that has today resulted in some of those the kits that we are validating and taking to the market. The first time we did that was for COVID and an Omicron kit that we actually developed with this grant, then called Crypto Relief. And thanks again to this community for having supported us tremendously on that. We are going ahead with our diagnostic platform, launching products, and an equally exciting area that we work in is in gene editing. And happy to talk to. I'm here for the next 2 days. I will be happy to talk to, interact and talk to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaijayanti. She's a serial entrepreneur, as you can see. Let's go to Dr. Tony Raj here, right in the front. Most wonderful of clinicians that I know, and an absolutely fine gentleman. Tony?
Thank you, Satya. It's wonderful. I'm a physician by training, but I also am the Dean of the Research Institute at St. John's. I also lead the division or the innovation incubator called St. John's Health Innovation Foundation. I'm really happy to be part of this whole gathering here in the summit. Thank you, BFI, for putting together such a wonderful summit, bringing together all the stakeholders to take technology, to take the knowledge and talent we have in India. I work with a lot of startups in Bangalore, and I'm very happy to see many of them here. We have the talent, and I think this whole dream of Viksit Bharat will come alive with help from groups like BFI and other like-minded government and non-governmental organizations. So happy to be here. Thank you, Satya.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Please reach out to him. While being at St. John's Hospital, he also heads the St. John's Research Institute in Bangalore, an amazing place. So let's go to Dr. Sanjay Hajarika. Is he here? Paraj tells me he's here.
Hi, thank you, Satya. I'm Satya Hazarika from the Center for Northeast Studies and Policy Research. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. I'm a journalist and writer, occasional filmmaker. And many years ago, I started the boat clinics in Assam with a small grant from the World Bank. We won a small award at a large function. And with that came the story of the boat clinics. And then I thought that we should go to the next step, which is the hospital ship that you perhaps saw Mr. Naliwal mention in his presentation. So we reach about 3 lakh people every year in partnership with the government of Assam. And as far as the ship is concerned, it hopefully will be rolled out in a few months. And we hope some of you will visit and take it forward. We reach the most vulnerable people who live on islands without access to health care or any other service. So this is something that I'm very grateful to the Blockchain for Impact for the support to complete the hospital ship, because without that, it would have been, it would have remained a dream. So I'm very grateful that this happened and for that support.
Thank you. Again, amazing work. Please reach out to him. I'll go straight back. I think I can see Mamoni there, right there in the corner. She is founder of PolyOrbit. Mamoni?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Mamoni Dash. I work as a scientist at the BRIC Institute of Life Sciences, and I have newly founded a spin-off from the lab, which was actually a PhD thesis turned out into a commercial idea. So we are working on extracellular vesicles. These are tiny vesicles that come out of the cells, but they contain a lot of information from the parent cell itself. So we are engineering these vesicles to understand their regenerative potential. And the first model that we are working on is regenerating bone. And we have demonstrated that we are able to regenerate bone effectively, and we're trying to use it as a bone graft material through the spin-off. So I'm here available tomorrow also, and we have newly onboarded onto the Kickstarter program. So we are together with Venture Center here. If anybody wants to visit and look at our product development, please feel free to reach out. We also have our Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Shashmita Samal, who will be happy to interact and take any questions on extracellular vesicles and their regenerative potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamoni. We'll come straight to the front round table here. And I see a good old friend of mine who lives in Goa and does sensors, and also was very active member to transform BITS Pilani as a whole. Can we pass it on to Professor Sunil Bhan?
Yeah, good evening to all, and thanks, Dr. Satya. So I'm representing BITS Pilani and BITS Biocity Foundation, a large ecosystem in academia and also a good enabler for entrepreneurs. BITS Pilani is known. Currently, BITS Biocity Foundation is funding translational research under the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical System in Bio-Cyber-Physical Systems area. We currently support 53 startups. We're also supporting 43 translational projects in the country. We will be very happy to connect with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Bhan. Is Professor Ravi Krishnan Ilongavan here? Or has he? Yeah, he is there. Right there, yes. An IIT Delhi graduate, then went on to do a PhD in Europe, came back to TIFR, and then a full professor now in IIT Delhi. Ravi?
Yeah, good evening all. Thank you, Satya. Thank you, BFI, for having us here. A fantastic day so far. I mean, I've really heard a lot of impressive stories and very glad to be part of this conversation. So I'm a faculty in biotechnology department in IIT Delhi. So one of the things that we have been going through is translating innovations from lab to commercializations. So one of the challenges to find out during your scale-up electronics design, mechanical designs, and having them prototyped in an industrial setting. So going into multiple vendors, collecting it to a product makes a lot of challenge. So we have set up a centralized facility called Mpragati. So this is actually a national facility that can be available, made used by any users, researchers, and also people who are building prototypes. So look it up. If may be of use for some of you in this medical device journey. Happy to interact with you also offline.
Great, thanks, Professor. I love calling him Professor, and he's a very good friend of mine. Okay, I think this part is unrepresented, and then because of equity and inclusivity, I have to pick from this side now. Who will like to speak from here? I can't see people from that side. Anybody who's doing some interesting work? Or maybe Dr. Madhu is here from CCMB. He is in the last, yeah. All the conferences I meet him, he's always been a backbencher. And is Professor Nidhan here? Vishwas? Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, Madhu Madhusudan Rao. I run an incubator in Hyderabad called Atal Incubation Center at CCMB. It's a life science incubator exclusively, mostly looking at medtech and biotechnology interventions. And we've been, we handheld almost 170 startups in the last 8 years, focusing on mainly cancer, diagnostics, medtechs, and things like that. And we also have some opportunities to fund promising startups. We focus mostly on deep science startups. And we've been lucky to be selected one of the BFI partners. And then we've run a couple of programs for them. I look forward for this event very much, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madhu. Can we go to, I can't see Dr. Deepika Mishra here. Is she here? No, from AIMS. Is she here? No. Okay. Can I then go to another very interesting institution being built, and I think Sonali is here, right? Is she here? Sonali Das? Yeah, there she is. Can we talk a bit about your work at TCG Crest? We will go to the ISC professor also, right there, Wish. No, but let's go to Sonali first. Sonali?
Hi, thank you, Satya. So I am representing my research institute, which is based out of Kolkata, the eastern part of India. It's called CREST. It's a brand new institute compared to many others. We started in 2019, and then there was a break for COVID, and then we picked it up, and we are fortunate to have collaboration with BFI, who had the belief in our first research project that we are carrying out in your cancer unit, where we aim to understand the difference between the Caucasian genomic pattern and the Indian genomic pattern in order to decipher the EGFR TKI resistance in lung cancer patients. So thank you so much, Satya and the team, and look forward to work together.
Thank you, Sonali. We'll just pause now. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's extend a very warm and a cordial welcome to a visionary leader, Honorable Shri Nitin Gadkari ji.
को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ऑर्गेनाइजर्स ऑफ ब्लॉकचेन फॉर इम्पैक्ट, ये हमारे ट्रेड, बिजनेस, एक्सपोर्ट में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। आने वाले समय में हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी का ये उद्दिष्ट है कि हमारे देश की इकोनॉमी वर्ल्ड की 3rd लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी बने, और 3rd लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी अगर हमको बनानी है तो उसके लिए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में तो बढ़ोतरी करने की आवश्यकता है, और उसके साथ साथ हमें एक्सपोर्ट भी बढ़ाना बहुत आवश्यक है। और ये बढ़ाने में निश्चित रूप से हमें परिणामकारक रूप से योजनाएं भी बनानी पड़ेगी और काम भी करना होगा। इस मंच ने वैज्ञानिकों, नीति निर्माताओं और टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेटर्स को एक जगह लाया है, क्योंकि जो सक्सेसफुल प्रैक्टिसेस वर्ल्ड स्टैंडर्ड पर है उसके बराबरी में पहुंचना हमारे लिए बहुत ही आवश्यक है। हेल्दी एंड इंक्लूसिव इंडिया ये बनाते समय हमें विशेष रूप से मेडिकल टूरिज्म का भी हम ग्लोबल हब बनाने का उद्देश्य हमने रखा हुआ है। हमारे देश में मेडिकल डॉक्टर्स की संख्या दिन ब दिन बढ़ रही है। विशेष रूप से रिसर्च एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में काफ़ी प्रगति भी हुई है। हमारी आयुर्वेद, विशेष रूप से हमारी योग विज्ञान और उसके साथ साथ हमारा मेडिकल साइंस आज देश में विख्यात है। यूके में भी यही स्थिति है और इसलिए बड़े प्रमाण पर एशिया, अफ्रीका से मरीज भारत इलाज करने आते हैं और मुझे विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में ये संख्या और बढ़ने वाली है। अच्छी क्वालिटी का अफोर्डेबल इलाज ये उसी समय मिल सकता है जब हमारे पास मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स, उसका रिसर्च और वर्ल्ड सक्सेसफुल प्रैक्टिसेस है, उसके आधार पर हमारे स्टैंडर्ड्स और अच्छे होंगे। हमारे एम्स और सुपर स्पेशलिटी अस्पतालों में जो डॉक्टर है उनकी भी एक क्रेडिबिलिटी बनी हुई है और जिसके कारण भी हमें इसका बहुत बड़ा फायदा हो रहा है। जो वर्ल्ड क्लास हाईवे भी बना रहे हम लोग, रूरल रोड भी बना रहे, इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर भी बना रहे, तो स्वाभाविक रूप से हमारे देश का ग्रोथ भी दिन ब दिन बढ़ रहा है। और इस ग्रोथ बढ़ने में जिस सेक्टर में बहुत बड़ी संभावना है उसमें से इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में जैसे कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट आ रही है, वैसे हमारे हेल्थ सेक्टर में विशेष रूप से बड़े प्रमाण पर इन्वेस्टमेंट भी आ रही है। और हमारे यहाँ से डॉक्टर के साथ साथ हमारे जो अलाइड कोर्सेस है, जो मेडिकल साइंस से रिलेटेड है, उसकी भी वर्ल्ड में डिमांड बहुत ज़्यादा है। प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर और जिला अस्पताल, इनको एम्बुलेंस, मोबाइल क्लिनिक, टेलीमेडिसिन वैन, इन सब से जोड़ने के लिए भी सरकार लगातार प्रयास कर रही है। वैक्सीन और लाइफ सेविंग ड्रग्स समय पर पहुंचाना, इसका अनुभव आप सब ने कोविड में लिया है। इसका कितना इम्पोर्टेंस है आपको पता है। ड्यूरिंग COVID-19, रोड एंड लॉजिस्टिक नेटवर्क प्लेड की रोल इन इंडियाज वैक्सीनेशन ड्राइव। मुझे और एक बात आपको कहनी है कि सड़क हादसे में हमारे देश में 5 लाख एक्सीडेंट्स होते हैं और 1,80,000 मौतें होती है। और इस क्षेत्र में विशेष रूप से कार्य करने की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि 18 से 34 एज ग्रुप में मरने वालों की संख्या 66% है। 30,000 लोग इसलिए मरते हैं कि वो हेलमेट नहीं पहनते, रूल्स ऑफ द रोड्स के बारे में उसका पालन नहीं करते। और एक बात ये भी ध्यान में आई है कि रोड एक्सीडेंट में अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट होता है तो उसको गोल्डन आवर में तुरंत अगर हम अस्पताल पहुंचाते हैं तो हम 30,000 लोगों की जान बचा सकते हैं। इसके बाद भी जिनकी जान जाती है उनके ऑर्गन डोनेशन के लिए भी उसका काफ़ी उपयोग हो सकता है। और इसलिए जो व्यक्ति ऐसे एक्सीडेंट में जिसका एक्सीडेंट हो रहा है उसको बचाने का कार्य करेगा और उसको हॉस्पिटल पहुंचाएगा, उसको राहवीर करके हम उसको करीब 25,000 रुपये का पुरस्कार भी देने वाले हैं। इसके साथ साथ हमने ये भी योजना बनाई है कि जो भी अस्पताल में उसको एडमिट करेंगे, उस अस्पताल में मिनिमम 8 दिन का, मैक्सिमम 1.5 लाख रुपए तक का उसका खर्चा भी हमने उठाने का तय किया है। हमारे वेस्ट एंड एम्यूनिटीज में भी हमने इस प्रकार की अनेक व्यवस्था, हर 40-50 करोड़ ट्रामा सेंटर, एम्बुलेंस पॉइंट्स, हेलीपैड, ये भी हमने किया है और NHI की तरफ से एम्बुलेंस भी तैनात की है। डिजिटल और टेक ट्विन हेल्थ सिस्टम ऑन हाईवे यूजिंग करने में GIS, ड्रोन और डिजिटल मॉनिटरिंग, यह टेक्नोलॉजी हम हेल्थ सप्लाई चेन, फार्मा लॉजिस्टिक्स और टेलीमेडिसिन के लिए भी उपयोगी हो सकती है। मुझे विश्वास है कि भारत की चिकित्सा पद्धति में मॉडर्न मेडिसिन में उसके साथ साथ हमारी आयुर्वेद, सिद्ध, यूनानी और नेचुरोपैथी का भी वैश्विक आकर्षण बन रहा है। हमारे योग विज्ञान का इतना प्रचार हुआ है कि इंटरनेशनल योग डे में पूरे दुनिया में हर जगह पर यह कार्यक्रम बड़े उत्साह के साथ हुआ है। योगा टीचर इसकी बहुत बड़ी डिमांड है। इन सब बातों में प्राकृतिक उपचार, जीवन शैली सुधार, प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ के लिए की गई उपाय योजना, रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट और टेक्नोलॉजी इन परंपरागत पद्धतियों को विकसित करना और ब्रांडिंग करना, ये भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है। मुझे विश्वास है कि कनेक्टिविटी, टेक्नोलॉजी और नीति का सही मेल भारत को हेल्थ केयर में ग्लोबल लीडर बनाएगा। हमारे रिसर्च और हमारी जिस प्रकार से आज कार्य चल रहा है, उससे ग्रोथ हो रही है, वो देखते हुए आने वाले समय में हम लोगों के यहाँ बहुत बड़ा पोटेंशियल है, डोमेस्टिक भी है और इंटरनेशनल भी है। और इसीलिए हमारी फार्मास्यूटिकल सेक्टर में एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ रहे हैं। और आज इस समय कोविड के समय आपने ये देखा है कि हमारे देश में जो कोविड के वैक्सीन तैयार हुए, वो पूरे दुनिया को हमने बहुत सस्ते दर में उपलब्ध करा कर दिए। इस क्षेत्र की क्षमताएं बहुत ज्यादा है और इसलिए इस सेक्टर की क्षमताओं को समझने के लिए अभी सभी स्टेक होल्डर को साथ में आना पड़ेगा और कम टुगेदर, थिंक टुगेदर एंड वर्क टुगेदर। कोऑर्डिनेशन, कोऑपरेशन एंड कम्युनिकेशन बिटवीन द स्टेक होल्डर, इसमें बढ़ाने के लिए ये कॉन्फ्रेंस बहुत उपयोगी होगी। मैं हृदय से इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं और शुभेच्छाएं देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय मंत्री जी, आपके प्रभावशाली और प्रगतिशील विचारों के लिए। अपने विचारों से और भारत सरकार की नीति और कार्यक्रमों का यहाँ पर लेकर हम सभी का मार्गदर्शन करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। That, ladies and gentlemen, was our Honorable Minister, and we're sure under his leadership, under his guidance, we are going to be working towards making a Surakshit, a Samriddh Bharat, as he said, and where all of us come together, we collaborate towards creating a safer and healthier India. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we move on towards cementing our partnerships and association with our BFI partners. We're now going to be witnessing MOU between BFI and UNDP, our partner. I would like to invite from UNDP, Isabel Shan, the Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP India, who has worked for 20 years in international development at the country, regional and headquarters level with the UN in different regions. I also invite Dr. Chiranjeev Bhattacharya, the Program Manager Health, and Neha Singh, the Strategic Partnership Specialist, UNDP. So there are two MOUs which are going to be exchanged, one with UNDP and the second with BRIC, BRIC, Institute of Life Sciences. Okay, so we'll have the MOU with the BRIC, Institute of Life Sciences. I invite Dr. Devashish Dash, the Director, ILS, Dr. Mamoni Dash, Scientist at ILS, Dr. Nivedita Jaina, the Head of ILS Incubator, and from BFI, we have our CEO, Dr. Gaurav Singh, Dr. Satya joining us, the Senior Advisor, BFI, Dr. Pooja Agarwal, the Program Director, and Dr. Annapurna, the Program Officer. So this is the MOU exchange which you are seeing and witnessing, shaping a healthier India through meaningful collaborations. The association partnership between BFI and BRIC, Institute of Life Sciences, Bhubaneswar, towards accelerating biomedical research and innovation. And the next partnership, the MOU between BFI and UNDP. From UNDP, I invite Ms. Isabel Shan, the Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP India. I also invite Dr. Chiranjeev Bhattacharya. So the second MOU between UNDP and BFI, Ms. Isabel Shan, the Deputy Resident Representative, Dr. Chiranjeev Bhattacharya, Program Manager Health, and Neha Singh, Strategic Partnership Specialist, UNDP. From BFI, we already have on stage our founder, Mr. Sandeep Nelwal, Dr. Gaurav Singh. I also invite Dr. Edward Perez and Dr. Ramnath Balala, the Program Director, Health Systems of BFI. The partnership aims to strengthen health systems with a One Health approach for prevention and response to disease outbreaks. So congratulations and thank you. I would like to request Ms. Isabel. A few words from you for this association.
Good evening. I will be very brief. I'm Isabel. I'm the Deputy Representative of UNDP, the United Nations Development Program here in India. Well, we are very excited to sign this partnership with the BFI Foundation. This is linked to the work we have been doing with the Ministry of Health, with the Ministry of Animal Husbandry, and with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, where we're working together with the Government of India on a One Health approach. More specifically, it will be pilot projects in Tamil Nadu, in 2 states, in Tamil Nadu and Telangana, where we have an integrated system and a community approach to One Health. So we are looking forward to testing this together and then to scale it up, possibly in other states and in the whole nation. I thank you for your support and looking forward to the implementation of this partnership.
Thank you for the support and thank you for the partnership and congratulations to BFI and UNDP and further to BRIC. Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be moving straight into our last panel discussion of the day. And post that, we have another short session that's going to be further moderated and taken over by Dr. Satya. This is a panel discussion on designing responsive health systems, challenges and opportunities, bridging the gap between healthcare delivery, preparedness, and then long-term public health goals. I invite our moderator to please take center stage, Dr. Angela Chaudhary, the Chief Catalyst at Swasti. Dr. Chaudhary leads global health programs focused on equity, tech, and climate-smart systems. A surgeon and a system thinker, she has mobilized almost $1 billion in health funding and pioneered India's first community-run COVID lab. Our panelist, Ms. Cynthia McCaffrey, UNICEF India representative, who has over 25 years in child rights and global development, formerly with UNICEF China in innovation. She champions equity education and child protection through multi-sector partnerships. Mr. Neeraj Jain, PATH's Regional Director, who leads strategy and partnerships across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. With more than 35 years of experience, he advances digital health, innovation, finance, and PHC, and serves on several public health boards and committees. We have Ms. Shilpa Nag, the Deputy Commissioner, Karnataka, was supposed to join us. Unfortunately, she's not been able to join us. She has extended her good wishes. Same with Dr. Srinath Reddy, the Padma Bhushan awardee and the president of PHFI. We thank them for their good wishes. Ms. Nandita Venkatesan, our next panelist who joins us in this session. I believe she's going to be joining us. She's a health policy expert and AMR advocate. And Mr. Johnson Topno, the Executive Director at PHIA Foundation. He has over 2 decades in development. He led Jharkhand's migrant response during COVID and previously worked with DFID and FES. Ms. Susan Thomas, a public health veteran, more than 40 years in health and childcare. As National Coordinator at LSST Seva, she focuses on women and children's well-being and social protection. She also serves on national childcare and social protection bodies. Ms. Nandita Venkatesan, a health policy expert and AMR advocate, present with us. Welcome to you. So we'll start with this. Yeah, I think we can move that side. It will look as a full panel. Thank you. So we'll have the opening remarks from Ms. Cynthia McCaffrey, and I invite you, ma'am, for your opening remarks for the session.
I do it from here? Okay. Moderator, which do you prefer? There? All right. How's this look? Does this look okay? All right. Okay. Good evening. I have the honor on behalf of UNICEF to just have brief opening remarks. And I mostly wanted to just say what a privilege it is for UNICEF to join this I3 Summit, really because of the opportunity to learn, listen, and work more and more with experts, innovators, academics who know media, who know data, and genuinely how do we push forward quickly on progress. I wanted to pick up on Sandeep's fireside chat last night, which I think was extremely useful in terms of framing what we're trying to do here together. And as we at UNICEF are looking at this, and as I looked at this august panel and looked at the participants yesterday and over the next 2 days, it's really how we're looking at strengthening that public health system, looking at the innovations that genuinely enable us to make sure that public primary health care are accessible, quality, far-reaching, and able to close that last mile gap. One of the things that really pressed on UNICEF from the opening last night was how do we converge to accelerate change and bring the innovations, leverage technology for things like telemedicine. How do you bring electronic health records together so that people are able to move around and have access? For children, this is particularly important. How do you look at improving data and making sure that you are able to have good data, but also timeliness in provision of services? And one of the things that BFI has pushed us in our partnership with UNICEF is really looking at designing resilient health systems that we learned during COVID, the importance of being able to have a health system that can withstand those shocks, whether it's from a pandemic and a health crisis or funding crisis that we see in many countries. And that's why we're here. And I think last night, Sandeep reminded us that as we look forward, how do we look at these countries that are lower or middle income countries that often have gaps in the healthcare system because of funding gaps or lack in data that is accessible and speedy. And that's why we're pleased to be here. And as I thought about framing this from UNICEF's perspective and I looked at this panel, I wanted to be inspired by the 3 I's and talk about the 3 P's. And the first is partnership. And UNICEF, an open secret is that we don't do anything alone. We work around the world with governments. We work with the government of India so that when we try something and it works, the government has systems to take it to scale. And when it doesn't work, we can recalibrate. We work with civil society and non-government organizations, and we'll hear from them because they're on the front line. They know communities. They're trusted by communities. We work with academics and the private sector to make sure that we're going and growing as fast as we can.